right, good morning, everybody. Good Wednesday morning. We're back here live on the channel. We're getting ready for the Bryan Kohberger sentencing in just about an hour from now. I'm looking at the Law and Crime Network feed, and they are starting their special. So why don't we let's click into Law and Crime, and we'll await the sentence hearing for Bryan Kohberger. Obviously, if you're not in tune with this case, this is from CBS News this morning. Bryan Kohberger is set to be formally sentenced at a hearing for pleading guilty to the murders of 4 University Idaho students in 2022. This is really the case that I really started covering here on my channel and kind of brought me into, I guess, this whole true crime genre. And covering cases and talk about them. It's something that I've always been really, into and watching, like the First 48 and crime series documentaries and serial killer documentaries. I've always kind of had a thing for all of this. I like puzzle solving. So when this came up, I started talking initially about this in December. So just about a month after it happened, I started popping up. But let's pop up on the Law and Crime Network. Let me just read this really quick. Kohberger's sentence hearing is set for 9 a.m. Mountain Time Wednesday, which is 11 a.m. Eastern Time, expected to last the day with some scheduled breaks, although the judge said it could be extended to Thursday to ensure there is enough time for the families to read victim impact statements. The hearing will be open to the public and live streamed. The court said more than 50 people were lined up before dawn outside Ada County Courthouse, waiting to get in, and some have waited there all night. Kohberger pled guilty earlier this month to the murders. He says as part of a plea deal that spared him from the death penalty. A plea agreement states that he would be receiving 4 life sentences without possibility of parole, 1 for each murder charge, and a 10-year sentence for burglary charge he also pled guilty to. During his plea agreement, Judge Hippler said to the court is not bound by the plea agreement that he could impose a different sentence. All right, let's pull the Law and Crime Network feed up. Anjanette Levy's outside live in Idaho.
Because this
let's
has
see
been
what's going on.
Brutal crime, and there's been so much heartache surrounding this crime, and the fact that these were 4 purely innocent, truly innocent victims killed as they were in their beds, just doing what college kids do after a night of partying. So, Chris, it's been an emotional roller coaster for the families and for the people of the state of Idaho.
And I just think back, Anjanette, and I mean, you were there in Moscow when all of this happened, and the search that went on for weeks, looking for the person who would have done this. And then we learn about Bryan Kohberger, and you think of the years it took to get to this point, and he will go to prison for the rest of his life. Today is going to be a very emotional day when you think of all of that, and you think of the opportunity that these families are going to have to address Bryan Kohberger and then move on with their lives as he goes to prison, which is where he's going to die one day.
All right, just to get into this, Michelle's asked, what time does the sentencing begin? It begins at 11. Court is to beginning at 11 a.m. This is going to be an all-day sentencing because we're going to have victim impact statements. So the court will do its protocol, and then there will be victim impact statements. For full transparency, and I totally forgot, I have a phone appointment at noontime. So I'm going to let the feed continue to stream while I take that appointment, and then I'll come back live on air when that appointment is over. So it's wild. I mean, it's really wild. There's still a lot of unanswered questions that I'd like to know. Obviously we know that the gag order has just recently been lifted. I'm not sure if all of those documents will get out to the public. I'm pretty sure that a lot of it's still going to be censored, but people will talk. People will talk. I think once this is all said and done, it's in the books, and Kohberger goes to prison for the rest of his life, I think that people will come out and eventually start talking. So whatever information we don't get out in court documents, I think, people will start telling their stories at some point. I still have a lot of curiosity questions in this. I want to know, and I came up with a theory, which actually became a pretty good theory. And I thought that something that was very interesting was there was an interview with Stephen Christie back in 2023, and they talked about finally after about a year, it was like the end of 2023. Finally, after about a year, they started to get some of Kaylee's possessions back, and they talked about a Bluetooth speaker. And I thought that was very interesting because I said, why would they keep Kaylee's Bluetooth speaker? And it led me to believe that we found out that Kohberger had been in and around that area at least, 12 to 15 times, what's been reported. And I said, I thought it was always interesting, even on the night of the murders, between the hours of when the murders actually happened, he went into airplane mode. But I started to think, if he was scouting this house out, if he was scouting this area out, could it have been possible that, randomly during these times when he was showing up, he knew the activity that was going inside that house? So, everybody could be in class. He came up and maybe he got close enough to the house where he had his Bluetooth on and he connected what they call a handshake, a digital handshake, to that Bluetooth speaker. Essentially how that works is if you have Bluetooth on and you step into a room that has a bunch of electronics that have capable Bluetooth connections, what your phone will do is send out a low AM frequency and try to connect with the things that are in the room. So if I was to grab my phone and pull my phone up right now, my Bluetooth's on, it's going to try to start connecting to multiple things in this room. It's going to say, hey, there's available devices. So my thing, what I always thought was it a possibility that maybe he forgot, he came up to the house at one point or got close enough. And I think it's a commercial grade Bluetooth. You have to be within like 120 or 110 feet, which would get him pretty damn close to that house. So was he in and around that house and tried to connect, or his device made a handshake with Kaylee's speaker? So I always thought that was very interesting, and I don't know if we're ever going to hear that information or get that information, but that was another thing that in my opinion put him at that house. So or even in the night, even in that night, maybe he slipped and his Bluetooth came on and it tried to connect. So it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. Let me go back up to the law and crime feed here. See what everybody's talking about.
As it relates to the murder of Madison Mogan, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 3, as it relates to murder in the first degree for the murder of Kaylee Gonzalez, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 4, the first degree murder of Xana Kernodle, a human being, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 5, the first degree murder of Ethan Chapin, a human being, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Before I start asking you questions today, have you consumed substantive questions? Let me ask you, have you consumed any alcohol, drug, or other intoxicating substance that would impair your ability to understand or exercise reasonable judgment?
No.
You feel like you are thinking.
So the hearing that you're hearing right now is the change of plea hearing that happened on July 2nd, 2025. So this is not the current hearing. Current hearing is going to start at about 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That I understand you're going to plead guilty today, too.
Yes.
As I indicated, I'm not bound by the plea agreement, but the plea agreement is for the maximum on each count. Do you understand that I'm not bound by the plea agreement?
Yes.
Has anyone promised you that I would be lenient or easy on you if you pled guilty?
No.
Has anyone threatened you or anyone close to you to get you to plead guilty?
No.
Is anyone other than the state's agreements with respect to the plea agreement, has anyone promised you anything in exchange for your plea agreement?
No.
Has anyone told you to be untruthful in answering my questions today?
No.
Has anyone offered you a reward of any kind other than the plea agreement in order to get you to plead guilty today?
No.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
And counsel, obviously there have been a number of motions filed to suppress evidence in this case. Other than those filed, are there any other motions that you felt were available with respect to Rule 12?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Kohberger, you understand that by entering the guilty plea in this case, you would be giving up your right to appeal any decision this court made, as well as your sentence.
Yes.
I think, you know, my interpretation of all of this is I think that this is just another fuck you from Kohberger to these families. That's what I think, because he knows that if this would have went through trial, and again, we're watching the Law and Crime feed. The hearing is said to start 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be cutting in and out of the feed since then. But, you know, my opinion is this is a big fuck you from Kohberger, knowing that this would go to trial and all of the things that would have come out, you know, all of the things that the world would have heard as to why and what happened, you know, all the evidence that would have came out and sunk this guy. And I truly believe that they had enough evidence to sink this guy. As much as all the pro Kohbergers out there say, oh, there's no way, there's not enough. There was plenty of evidence that I went over. And, you know, the big problematic thing was, you know, the DNA on the knife sheath. He left his fingerprint essentially at that crime scene. And that was a big major problem for him. And I think in the ultimately end is this is another big fuck you to the family to say, you're never going to know, you're never going to find out, and you're only going to have to speculate as to the evidence. And I'm not going to tell you. But again, you know, he could speak today. He could be arrogant enough to get up there and do this in front of the world and have the grand stage, knowing that the world is watching this. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, we're going to be here for quite a while today. This hearing is said to go all day long with some breaks in between. And, you know, we'll just have to see how this all shapes out. But let's go back to Law and Crime feed. I want to welcome everybody in again this morning. Gee, we're at 10:15 Eastern Standard Time right now. And this video or this live stream today is sponsored by the Star Drive-In in East Taunton, Massachusetts, the one and only retro hotspot for all amazing food over there. If you go by and you go to the Star, please mention that I sent you over there. Just say, hey, LTL sent me, and you'll receive 10% off of your order. All right, let's go back to the Law and Crime feed and see what's going on here.
For the rest of his natural life, and you're going to listen to these victim impact statements.
Sure, that's a really, really hard day. You know, as defense lawyers, we're still humans.
You're welcome, Brenda.
And listening to those victim impact statements, it's really difficult. But you're there for your client. You're there to make sure that everything is fair and unbiased, even though it never feels like it's unbiased. But if you don't have those attorneys there, if they're not there.
Let me just answer this question again. You know, we'll be popping in and out of the Law and Crime feed until that hearing starts. So Lori's asking a question. Does anyone believe Ann Taylor or his team knew all along that BK was guilty? And listen, you know, as a defendant, as a client, you have every, you can tell under the sworn agreement between an attorney and, you know, attorney-client privilege, you can talk about that, and you have every right to talk about all of that to your attorney in your undersworn secrecy for them to defend you. So yeah, it is quite a possibility. It is quite a possibility. And the way that Ann Taylor, in my opinion, was fighting through all of this with all the shenanigans that she put up, I think there is a strong possibility that Bryan obviously told her and knew all along. I think they did know all along. I think, you know, I think ultimately the plan was to get the death penalty off the table and just put this guy behind bars for the rest of his life. That's what I think the overall thing was here. That's why all the delays, And then ultimately, when he changed his plea to guilty, that was the plan all along, just to get the death penalty off the table. Let me look at the Gonzalez Facebook page and see if they have any update. Let's see if they put a statement out this morning. No statement from the Gonzalez's this morning. All is quiet right now. Last post was on the 21st when Donald Trump chimed in about Bryan Kohberger. So that was just a few days ago. All right, let's go back up to the Law and Crime feed here.
Gonzalez, who has been very outspoken with his anger over this plea deal and what he might say when he gets the opportunity to address Bryan Kohberger. In these types of situations, what is someone allowed to say in these moments as a victim in the victim impact statement?
Of emotions and statements. I mean, they can't get too far afield, but they have the right to say, just as it's called a victim impact statement, how this crime has impacted their lives. So they can go into all of that emotional damage that has been caused, and a lifetime of suffering that they will endure now because of these crimes he's committed. So they are allowed to go into any aspect of the impact that this will have on their lives, what it's had on their lives to date, and certainly what it will be like their lives in the future. And not only for them, but their families and their friends and things like that. So they are usually given a wide latitude of the amount of things that they can describe, because the judges realized kind of this is their one chance to be face to face with this monster that did this horrific thing to their loved ones. And
Good
so
morning, Vermont.
I think that I think lets the judges give them, a wide latitude. And you're going to hear a lot of different things. And most of it's going to be, the horrific aftermath, of the lives torn apart. Obviously, the lives of the victims, but the families of victims as well. And these people have an extensive family and friend network. This whole college, and as Anjanette said earlier, this whole community will be suffering for generations. This is a generational crime. People 30, 40 years from now will be still talking about this crime.
Yeah, and to Anjanette's point, kind of like the innocence of Moscow, Idaho was lost on that day. And you think of what these families have been going through now for multiple years since 2022. Getting a question here in our chat. This is for the panel. Jennifer, I'll start with you with this question from Brett Losa. What does the panel think? His autism diagnosis points to maybe he got hyper fixated on this crime and he just could not stop. What do you think when you look at this, that autism diagnosis the defense says he has, what role that may have played in this crime?
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer about how his autism diagnosis fits in with the crime. Certainly, the courts in sentencing can take mental health issues into account. But, really, unless it impacts his ability to discern right from wrong, I don't know how big of an impact it would be have in a crime of this nature where you've got, four young people who've been murdered. But certainly it goes into probably his lack of emotion that he shows. And so to the extent that might be confused with the lack of remorse, we don't really know. He hasn't said much yet. But I don't know that would have a big impact, if at all, on sentencing.
I think we're going to go out to Anjanette with the next one. Anjanette, you got me?
Jennifer, I'm really interested in your perspective on this because Ann Taylor and her team, they've been representing somebody who really, has become public enemy number one. He is somebody who does have some support online. He does have a group of supporters. They call themselves, or at least I guess people who believe he's guilty call them the pro-burgers. But he is somebody who really is a pariah in the United States. I mean, people wanted him to face the firing squad here in Idaho. And so that's got to be a challenge as a defense attorney. But really, Ann Taylor, it seemed like her whole
California.
job here, her whole mission from the beginning was to save his life and to get the death penalty taken off the table. She filed motion after motion trying to get the death penalty taken off the table. So she accomplished that mission. How big of a struggle is that, having a case that's in the public spotlight? You just came off of a case that was in the public spotlight, the Delphi case. How big of a challenge is that, defending your client when you've got, the eyes of the world on your case?
UK
Well,
check.
it definitely adds many layers of stress,
Ireland.
if you will,
Cool.
to have that kind of notoriety. Not only just and it makes it harder, right? It makes harder to have discussions, agreements with the prosecution, because it adds that layer, I don't want to say of oversight, but it certainly adds a layer of scrutiny. And at the end of the day, and I don't know Idaho, but here in Indiana, we have elected judges. You have generally elected prosecutors who have to answer to people on election day. And so to have that kind of overall scrutiny certainly makes it so much harder to engage in those kind of plea negotiations.
Wow.
Because of that level.
Look at this. Mama of medic checking in and says, Mama of a medic checking in says, my childhood friend was unalived by a monster. He sits on death row in Idaho for over 30 years. Death sentences take forever. So many trials for the family with no closure. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's crazy. And I'm so sorry for your loss. I've lost my childhood best friend as well, too. I have that story up on my channel if you want to check that out. Kathleen says this piece of shit better speak. I don't know, Kathleen. I don't know if we're going to get anything. Killingly, Connecticut checking in. I'm going to be in New London on Friday, the Sean Paul Reyes hearing. So I'll be down there in New London on Friday. Also saying thank you for for covering this. Absolutely. You're welcome. Dre Cut Mass checking in. Wyoming, baby. Thanks for the $2. I appreciate that, Aurora. Thank you. Yeah, I think this guy's going to have some problems in prison. I don't think he's going to make it. He's such a mark. He's such a mark for everybody. This is going to be such a mark. Brooklyn checking in. Nope, no appeals. Appeals off the table. And again, we'll be bouncing in and out of the Law and Crime Network. We're just waiting for the hearing. Hearing will start at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to welcome everybody in. If you haven't already, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We're going to be here throughout the day. I do have to step away for about an hour at noon, but I will leave the feed going. We're going to hear victim impact statements pretty much throughout the entire day. But I'm going to pop out for noon, but I'll be back at about 1 p.m. to finish up the stream for today. Let's see. Wisconsin checking in. Scotland and Georgia. Wyoming checking in. Vancouver checking in. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. Smash the like button. That is free to do that down there. I see some likes popping up. Got about 200 likes. And I asked a question this morning. If you haven't seen the poll at the top, I asked, will Kohberger speak? 15% say yes and 85% say no. And we got 625 votes so far. North Carolina, Greensboro. I was in, I went to, where was I? Where in North Carolina? Charlotte. I was in Charlotte back in probably 2016. Spent like 2 weeks there. It was awesome. I loved it. I love it. Good morning. Welcome in. Tessa says this coward won't speak. He doesn't even deserve his name being spoken. I think he's going to have some issues in prison, maybe some prison justice. UK checking in. Good to see you. Hello. Wyoming. The Netherlands checking in. Look at this. Clayton, North Carolina. Good to see you. I'm in the AC today. Montreal, Canada checking in. We got Minnesota, South Africa, Ontario. I got to get up there sometime. I got to go to Toronto. I want to check out Toronto. Everybody tells me it's like New York City, but like way cleaner. Is that true? And I always want to go to Tokyo as well, too. I heard that's like a cleaner New York City. New Hampshire. South Africa checking in. Look at this. Oh, no, asking what part of South Africa. I think this was, oh, let's see.
Taking a live look here. I know, Anjanette, this is out where you are right now. This is the Gonsalves family. You see Steve,
Yep.
her dad, the father of Kaylee Gonsalves, walking in to the Ada County Courthouse in Boise. He has been so vocal throughout this, calling for justice, and also has been very critical of the prosecutor, Bill Thompson, and the decision to go forward with this plea deal. He wanted to see a trial. He wanted to see,
Turkey, look at this.
if found guilty, the death penalty for Bryan Kohberger. And so he is going to be someone, there will be a lot of eyes on what he has to say when he gets his opportunity to address his daughter's killer today in court. We continue to get your questions, which we really appreciate coming in on the chat. We also have the results of our first poll. Thank you to 4,500 of you who were able to weigh in on this. We asked, what sentence outcome do you think is most appropriate? The death penalty, 59%, life without parole, 37%, and long-term imprisonment with parole coming in at 2%.
Yeah, let's ask this question. Let me know in the chat. Are you upset? Are you upset at Bill Thompson and this prosecuting team that they came to an agreement to let Kohberger off the death penalty? Are you upset? Let me know in the chat. Yes or no? Yes or no? Are you upset that they allowed this plea? I'm pissed. I'm pissed. This should have went through a trial. It should have went through the courts. It should have been publicly heard. And to come to this backhanded agreement at the last minute is not justice, in my opinion. Everybody needed to know what happened. Everybody needed to know what happened. A lot of people are upset. A lot of people are upset. Got a few no's, lots of yeses. But I don't like the fact that they came to a plea deal. Maybe we'll let's change the poll. So let's finish this one. Let's put a new one up. And again, I want to thank everybody for popping in today, checking out the stream. I'm going to be here through the majority of the day. Let's see. Are you angry? Make it real simple. Are you angry with the plea deal? It's going to be the next poll that goes up. Let's see. All right. New poll. Let's see what everybody says. So I asked, are you angry with the plea deal? We're at 50-50 right now. 61% yes so far. All right. We'll let that do its thing. All right. Let's go back to law and crime. Again, 11 a.m. The hearing will start. We're going to be hanging out, taking your questions, taking your questions as we go along. Feel free to chat along with us. Still waiting. Again, 11 a.m. hearing. We'll hear the sentencing. We'll hear victim impact statements today. This could spill over into Thursday if we don't get completed today. And I'll be here majority of the day. And if you can, smash that like button. It's free to do that. And I have to step away at noontime for about an hour, but I'll let the feed continue, and then I'll come in and finish up the case or finish up the hearing. Wow, very split decision. Very split decision here. I asked, are you angry with the plea deal? Poll at the top, 182 votes. 57% yes and 43% no. So it's almost split, 50-50 down the middle. We'll see how that. Put a 50-50 on the poll. Nah, we got to get a yes and no answer. We got to get a yes and no answer. East Texas checking in. Thank you so much. All right, let's see what Lauren Crime's got going on. Whoops.
Appeal and you don't appeal,
Let's see.
you're then determined to be ineffective. Do you think he will appeal?
I can't.
I don't know, you know, if the judge gives him 4 consecutive life sentences, and I apologize, I'm not familiar with Idaho law. If you appeal a sentence in Indiana, they can come back and resentence you. So you could be resentenced to a harsher penalty. If that is the case in Iowa, that would be, you know, a strong reason not to appeal. But if the judge can't do that, if that's off the table and you're sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, most certainly. What do you have to lose? He has nothing to lose at this point, because from here he will be going to the Idaho Department of Corrections, and that will be his home for the foreseeable future, unless they decide to transfer him out of state because of possible threats to his safety. Jennifer Auger, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to sign you off. Have really enjoyed talking with you. Hope you'll come back some other time. Chris, I'll send it back to you for now.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Anjanette, thank you. Let's continue on with our panel. Also want to note that shortly we'll be joined by Dr. Dwayne Hendricks, retired senior warden with the U.S. Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Prisons. And we're going to be talking about the big question of what does Bryan Kohberger's life look like after today, or after the day after.
Fred, $10 says, hey, Brian, it was a pleasure meeting you during the Karen Reed trial. Great coverage as always, brother. Hey, thank you, Fred. I appreciate that. We're just trying to continue to grow the platform here. I have some exciting news. If all of you don't know, I'm actually going to be moving in about a month into a larger space in this building. And I have a dream and a vision in those. I have 2 rooms. I have 2 rooms now. But this space is just, I'm outgrowing it, and I've outgrown it fast. And there's a lot more things that I want to do in here that has been kind of a nuisance of the things that I've been wanting to do. I'm trying to set up multiple studios in this space, and it's just too small. So I've signed another 2-year lease here in this building. I'm super excited about it. I have such a great building owner. He's so supportive of what I do, and he's like, just come in and do your thing. And I love that. And we'll be moving soon in September up to a larger space. It's going to take me a little bit of time to build it. I might have to bring the live streams back to home for a little while until we get the studio up and built. But I think we have the right things in place to get it done. I have a vision. I'm going to start putting that vision together over the next month of what I want to do. And it's going to be really exciting. And I'm looking forward to it. So many of first things that we're trying to do here with expanding the space and expanding the presentation here on LTL Media. And I think it's going to be great. I have a huge bunch of very supportive people around here, around me, that are going to help. And we're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen. And it's awesome. You know, I'm committed to doing this for at least another 2 years. Hey, why not? We'll give it a run. We're halfway to a silver play button, right? We're halfway to 100,000 subscribers, and I can't wait to get to that moment and celebrate that with all of you. So it's a great thing. I'm very, very excited. So let's go back up to the Lauren Crime feed. Again, we're here waiting for the sentencing of Bryan Kohberger today. The hearing will start at approximately 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will hear multiple victim impact statements throughout the day, and we'll keep the coverage going as long as I can. I do have to step away at noontime for an appointment that I forgot that I had. It's only going to be about an hour, so I'll be off camera for an hour, but we will keep the feed going. And then once that my meeting concludes, I'll pop back on camera. So, you know, it's been a long time coming here on LTL Media Channel. This is a case that I started covering back in December of 22, or maybe just on the cusp of January 23, and really kind of got my start, I guess, in the true crime genre and covering cases. And then obviously, you know, the work that I did in the Karen Reed case, amongst other cases here that are going on inside, in and around Massachusetts. So again, I want to welcome everybody in to this live stream. If you haven't, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Smash that like button. It's free. Let's do a refresh on the poll. Excuse me. The poll is, I asked, are you angry with the plea deal? Wow, it is still pretty much split. 326 people. 326 people, yes, at 56%, and 44% say no. Look at this, Las Vegas checking in. And thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm committed. I want to do this. This is my dream. I love this. This is not something where I just wanted to come on and turn a camera on and blah blah blah. I wanted to put real work into this and turn this into an actual functioning media company. And I'm excited. I'm really excited because I love doing this. I absolutely love doing this, and I love being here with all of you. And I love all the support that's come over, all the positivity here that we've created, you know, on this channel, given the circumstances, the thing that we talk about. I try to keep things straight on this channel. I try to keep the information that I put out through this airwave, the correct information. And that's something that I pride myself on. I have great guests that come on here and give factual information to the things that we talk about. So it's very exciting. Just a little technical perjury just became a new member. Thank you so much for supporting. And Brenda, 9-month membership. Thank you. It irks me how his lawyers smile all the time. It is kind of disgusting. It is kind of annoying, right? All right, let's go back to the Law and Crime feed. Let's see what's going on in the conversation here. Again, 11 a.m. We're about 20 minutes away from that hearing to start.
And learned a little bit more about what prosecutors would have had in a trial. After today or tomorrow, when this sentencing hearing wraps up, how is this gag order, which I know has been lifted, but what does the process look like moving forward in getting more of this evidence?
Well, the Moscow Police Department has actually said they will be setting up a website to release records because the department's been inundated with requests for records. We've requested the records many, many times, and those requests have all been denied due to that non-dissemination order. They don't like it when you call it a gag order. We've called it a gag order because essentially that's what it's done, but it also basically prohibited the release of any information about the case, any records about the case, even body camera footage that would normally be released was barred from release due to the non-dissemination order. So we don't know exactly when they will start releasing those records. There's a 42-day window or so for the appeal that we believe there's some type of appeal window that will run, and then possibly after that expires, we will start seeing the release of some of the records, and hopefully we will get the lion's share of the records, the investigative reports, the body camera footage, things of that nature. But things like autopsy reports, very gruesome crime scene photos, I'm not sure we will ever see those types of photos, and the judge may order that those be sealed.
Another result coming in from our poll, and we appreciate everybody.
So Tesha, listen, it's a good question that you brought this up. Has anyone watched the document series on Amazon Prime? I have. I've gotten into, what is it, 3 or 4 episodes. I've gotten halfway through it. You know, I was surprised that Christy and Steve weren't part of it. That's kind of what I was waiting to hear, to see them on it. But I don't know. I kind of got halfway through it and didn't go back to it. It's something I have to circle back around to. So, I don't know. All right, let's go back up to the feed. Again, we're about 20 minutes away from that hearing to start, 11 a.m. here on the East Coast. I appreciate everybody coming in, you know, an hour early with me, getting the stream going. And see how everything's going to happen today. I got to step away for 2 seconds.
and he will be wearing shackles, handcuffs. He may even have some type of other type of restraint on. But the only reason, and some of the families were very critical of this, particularly the Gonsalves family, was very critical of the fact that he was permitted to wear civilian clothes. But the only reason that happened was because there was a lot of media attention on this case, and he appeared in court, and cameras were allowed in the courtroom. And this is very common in high-profile cases, that defense attorneys will ask the judge to allow their client to appear in street clothes because they enjoy a presumption of innocence. And the jail jumpsuit can project an image of guilt. Psychologically, it can project this image to the public that, hey, this
Sorry
guy
about the
is
no
in
sound.
a
Sorry.
jail jumpsuit. He's guilty. And so this is to preserve that right to a fair trial. And to not taint the jury pool. That's why these people are permitted to wear civilian clothes. And that's the only reason that it happened. So at the plea hearing, when Judge Hippler accepted Bryan Kohberger's guilty plea, he said that he was going to revoke that order, allowing Bryan Kohberger to wear civilian clothes. He said it was no longer necessary because he had pleaded guilty and he no longer enjoys the presumption of innocence. So today, we will see Bryan Kohberger in a jail jumpsuit and in restraints.
Yeah, well, and such a difference from the picture that we're looking at right here when he was in court and gave those chilling, just one-word answers to whether or not he committed these crimes. And no longer do we have to say alleged when talking about Bryan Kohberger. We say that he is a murderer of the 4 students at the University of Idaho back in November of 2022. Anjanette Levy, host of Crime Fix, here on Law and Crime. I know you're heading into the courthouse. Very interested to get your perspective after all of this and just how emotional today is going to be.
I will be in there right now. Our managing editor, Kathy Russin, she is in the courtroom as I speak, and I will be in there in a short time. So I will be back here in just a short while updating you on everything that.
Yes, I'll try my best here. Hang on.
So Chris, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Anjanette Levy live in Boise. We'll bring back Mark Weaver and Bobby Chacon, who are continuing to answer your questions. So make sure you bring them in to us, drop them.
I'm going to pause on that really quick, asking about enhancing the sound. I have a little bit of a booster. The best thing to do is you have to try to turn up your volume. Something with StreamYard, when we share video that is being streamed, it just brings the level of audio down. And I hope that's something that StreamYard will look into fixing in the future, because it's kind of annoying. It can be annoying sometimes, but the best thing that I can tell you to do, if you're on your phone, pop an ear pod in if you have an ear pod, or if you're at home, you're just going to have to turn the TV up or turn your computer up. So that's the best that I can say. Everybody's saying the volume is okay. And then once the hearing starts, I'll turn on captions so people can see the captions as well too. Okay, let's go back up to the feed. Again, we're about 15 minutes away from the sentence hearing for Bryan Kohberger in the Idaho student murders. I started about an hour early today just to get the feed up and running, making sure we didn't have any technical difficulties. And we'll hang out. We'll wait. I'm just going to take a quick pause for a sponsor, and I'll be back in about a minute. Here we go. Need a break from modern life? We'll travel back in time to the Star Drive-In. That's East Taunton's iconic retro hotspot. Fun for the whole family. Enjoy great food, entertainment, and timeless memories. They got free community events all season long, including movies under the stars, live music and tailgating, Jeep meets classic car shows and bike nights. While you're there, indulge in over 100 flavors of soft serve, 80 flavors of Bliss and Gifford's hard ice cream, plus a rotating selection of 10 flavors of Dole Whip. The Star Drive-In is not your average fast food place. Everything is made fresh to order using quality ingredients. Fresh seafood is delivered daily and pizza dough made twice a day for maximum freshness. I love their pizza. The Star Drive-In, where food, fun, and family memories never go out of style. They're conveniently located at 205 Myrick Street in East Taunton. That's exit 16 off Route 140. Make sure to visit their website or follow them on Facebook for their latest menus and upcoming events. And hey, while you're there, say hi to Erica and her team. And if you mention LTL at the register, you'll receive 10% off your entire purchase. That's the Star Drive-In in East Taunton. It's the most iconic retro hotspot. All right. This is brought to you today by the Star Drive-In in East Taunton, Massachusetts. Please go over and visit Erica and her team. And if you mention LTL at the window, you'll get 10% off your order. All right, let's go here.
And it's still to this point such a big question of why, and we don't know if we'll ever understand the why and the motive. That's not something that Bryan Kohberger is required under this plea deal to say, even though he will have the opportunity to address the courtroom today. Mark, I have a question coming in from Bonnie, who asks, how long can the victim speak at the sentencing? Is there a time limit imposed?
So the law gives trial court judges great discretion about how to run their hearings. Appeals court judges do not like to step in and second guess trial court judges. And there's nothing in the criminal rules that say how long. So it's always in the trial court judge's best judgment. A smart trial court judge, somebody who's wise, will allow the victims to say their piece within reason. A victim who walks up there with 30 pages and says, I'm going to need an hour to do this, the judge might say, I'll give you 20 minutes. But that typically doesn't happen, A, because most victims don't want to talk that long. In this case, victims' families don't want to talk that long. And secondly, because there really is a moment of closure that the court is trying to allow to happen. We know how this hearing will end. What we don't know is whether the defendant talks, if so, what does he say, and whether the victim's family speak and what they say. So most trial court judges will allow to play it out. Only one who's really not so wise will step in and say, hurry it up there. I'd like to get this finished.
I now want to bring in Dr. Dwayne Hendricks, retired senior warden at the U.S. Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Prisons. Thank you for taking the time to be with us on Law and Crime. Bryan Kohberger will be in state prison after today. So once this wraps up, and from what we're hearing, this is going to be a one-day event. What happens tomorrow to Bryan Kohberger?
Well, they'll be preparing to send him over to the maximum security prison in Kuna, Idaho, which is about 6 hours away from where the murders occurred in Moscow. And then once he arrives there, I would give him about 30 days, 30 to 60 days. He'll probably be sent over there to that facility. And depending on how today's hearing goes, I know we've been discussing about in terms of whether he's going to explain why he did it, or is he going to have any level of remorse or take responsibility. But I think if he does not do any of that, it's going to take them a little bit of time to assess
Thank you, Mary.
him and to try to determine which housing unit that he'll be placed in that facility. What we do know about the institution is it holds about 550 inmates, and about 130 of those individuals are serving life sentences. So they'll probably place him in more an administrative unit, maybe not necessarily where he's locked down 23 hours a day. But I think it will take some time to assess him before they place him in a housing unit, because I'm not actually sure if he has cellmates in the county facility or wherever he's being locked up at this current time. So they're going to need some time to do a mental health evaluation and assess him.
Yeah, I mean, usually when you go off to big boy prison, it's usually 30 days where they can categorize you, they watch you, they categorize you, they ask a multitude of questions, and they have to figure out where they're going to place you, either in that facility or they're going to transfer you around. He's probably going to get transferred around quite a bit. And I'm going to tell you this, I think he's going to be a mark. And what I mean by that, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to get at him. So he's going to have to be really, really careful. Not that I care, but I'm just saying, I think he's going to be a mark. I think, like Dahmer, when they went after Dahmer and they got him, it's going to be probably one of those certain situations, because if someone can take them out, they become, the person that said, I took Kohberger out. So we'll have to see. Becky says, wow, I just checked out Star Drive-In summer seafood menu. Let's go. My ex is still my bestie, and he is a seafoodie, we'll be letting him know that you sent us, Bryan, and we will report back. Great. And again, let them know that LTL sent you and you get 10% off your order. All right, let's go back up to law and crime.
And, you know, in the end, the families don't make those decisions. And sometimes they shouldn't, because you don't make legal decisions on emotion. And so you have to make legal decisions based on sound experience and knowledge of the law and the knowledge of the facts of the case. Those things may not have been in possession by the families. So I think the prosecutors always try to seek input. But again, if you have different families and different victims' families here giving you different levels of support or objection to it, what do you do? And so I think that, yes, they do seek the input, but the ultimate decision, obviously, is the prosecutor. And the prosecutor doesn't work for the families. They work for the people of the state of Idaho, and they have a higher interest in that mission. And so they have to balance that, sure. But in the end, they work for the people of the state, and they have to do what's best for the people of the state. And locking him up in life with no parole and taking that risk, as we heard earlier, off the table of something happening at trial is what they decided to do. I'm a death penalty proponent. I would have liked to see Kohberger get the death penalty, but I don't have as much of a problem with the prosecutor taking this deal as some of the family members. Of course, I don't have that stake in it either.
Yeah, and here's another poll that we have coming in, and you just think of the impact that this story has had, not just on Moscow, not just on Idaho, but people across the country. The question was, has this case changed how you feel about personal safety or trust in others? Yes, much more cautious.
I'm going to pause this really quick. Just turn the sound down really quick. Not pause it, but I'm looking at my poll right now. My poll says, are you angry with the plea deal? 53% say yes, and 47% say no. We have 618 votes. Wow, it's very split. It's very, very split. It's so close to being a 50-50 split. All right, back to law and crime. Again, we're about 7 minutes away from when this hearing is supposed to start at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll just play out law and crime until this starts. Here we go.
You know, for personal reading, a certain amount of legal material. So I'm sure, I know he's pleading guilty for these 4 consecutive life sentences, but I'm sure at some point he'll probably try to appeal something or, whatever, so he can have legal materials in his cell. And that's pretty much it. Now, well, what I do know, after spending over almost 30 years working in jails and prisons across the country, inmates tend to have a lot of things in their cells, access materials, access commissary, access clothing, but typically it's just his basic needs to function within that particular cell that he's in. And more than likely, he'll just have one cellmate, but if they ever get overcrowded there, he could have upwards of 2 to 3 other inmates in that particular cell. So that is very limited to what individuals can have in their living quarters. And that helps maintain a safe and secure environment within that facility, because as we know, inmates have contraband, such as weapons and different things of that nature that they try to hide in order to try to maintain their personal safety on a daily basis. So the least amount of property, the least amount of materials in those cells will help maintain a safe and secure facility, especially in a maximum security institution where your most dangerous inmates are being housed across the country.
And to think that that's going to be his reality for potentially decades until he dies in prison. I'm going to turn to you, Mark, and this was kind of to Bobby's point. We have a prosecutor, might as well ask them prosecutor questions. This is from LB. Why didn't the deal to take the death penalty off the table also include him disclosing motive and exactly what happened to the family? What went into these negotiations?
Yeah, that is the only way to find out from him what he was thinking for sure. The judge cannot make him do that, so the judge can't require him to do that today. The prosecution could have said, you want us to take the death penalty off the table? You're going to have to give us answers to the following questions and then list them out. And the fact that the prosecution didn't do that, I think that's a better point to criticize the prosecutors on than the taking the death penalty off the table. Because we've all agreed the prosecution had a strong hand here. The evidence was overwhelming I gave the case earlier for why a prosecutor might want to take the death penalty off the table to guarantee a conviction and dismiss nearly all of the appeals. But if you want a spot
You're
to
welcome.
criticize the prosecutor, there's your weak spot. That's where you could push on.
Yeah, that's normally the intake. Yeah, it's normally intake is 30 days. They're going to evaluate you. They're going to see how you're going to conform to the facility. They're going to ask you mental health questions, get your medical stats, you know, all that stuff, and then just kind of put you into Gen Pop. But we'll have to see what happens. Let me just get this up. Fabi, thank you so much. $10 super chat says, I saw on a report that that was an ex-inmate of the facility BK is going to, and he was saying that he will be recruited to a dangerous gang because they want cold-blooded killers on their side. That could be, I don't know. I mean, we know that he did that rap song. I don't know. Do you see Bryan Kohberger as a violent gang member? I don't know. Don't know. Quite possibly. I don't know. But thank you for the super chat. I
In
appreciate
fact, if
it.
he tried to, that would be a basis for appeal for Kohberger to ask for the entire plea deal to be taken off the table and go back to square one, so that a judge can do lots of things when it's regular sentencing. We agreed to 10, the judge is going to do 12. That's possible. The judge cannot have the death penalty at this late date.
And Bobby, a question for you, because you have followed this story from the very beginning and have followed this investigation. This is from Sarah Jones. And the question is, did he know the girls? And I just think of, what do we know at this point about Bryan Kohberger's connection to these 4 people who he killed?
Well, I mean, clearly he had some connect. He didn't randomly pick that house that night and go in and kill us. So he had some connection to at least one of the victims. That's just common sense. That's without any other investigation. That's just common sense. The fact that he drove past that house, or his car was in that house, parked near that house on 12 different occasions, we now know. There was some connection. Now, it may not have been a personal connection. It may have been some kind of cyber stalking connection or whatever. But he certainly had somebody in that house that he was looking at, that he was surveilling online, surveilling in person. So yes, there's ample evidence that both from a common sense standpoint and from an investigative evidence standpoint, there is ample evidence to believe that he had at least one or more of those victims, you know, in his mind, in his target, in his crosshairs, kind of, you know, before all of this happened, certainly. And the fact that now we know his movement through that house went right for, you know, it looks like Matty Mogan's room, and that he was parked on a number of occasions in a spot that he could see into that room. And Matty was known to kind of put her makeup on and stuff at her vanity right near that window that could be seen from across that parking lot in the back of the house. But you know, so there is ample evidence to believe that he was connected to them, either, you know, just by cyber stalking, or may have been in that town, may have gone to where they work, and that kind of stuff. I don't think it was much more than that. I don't think he possibly ever spoke to them, other than if one of them waited on him at a restaurant or something like that. I don't think there was anything more than that. But certainly he had intended to go after one or more of those victims in that house that night.
So real quick, I just did the old Chat GPT and asked Chat GPT. And again, hearing should start here in a minute or so if it starts on time. We're still waiting, but I did the old Chat GPT. I asked Chat GPT, what does your first 30 days in big boy prison like? It said intake and processing day 1 through 3, booking and classification, 1 sentence or transferred, your process photograph, fingerprinted, assessed, medical, mental, gang affiliation. You got to go through a strip search. Full body search is standard upon entry. You have orientation. Some prisons give a rundown of the rules, rights, daily schedules, and expectation. Then you have waiting and holding. You may spend hours, even days, in a holding cell or intake units before being assigned housing. First week or 2 weeks, some facilities require a quarantine period, especially post-COVID or mental health watch, before you enter general population. You might be in solitary segregation or a reception unit where you will be evaluated before you are placed in long term. You'll start to adjust to daily life. And I'll tell you, this doesn't sound like fun at all. You'll start to adjust to daily life. Rules and routine, wake up calls, counts, meals, rec time, and lights out become your structure. Limited privileges, phone time, commissary, mail, and you are usually restricted or delayed during the first weeks. Isolation. Many inmates feel extreme loneliness and anxiety, especially those who are away from family entering prison for the first time. Oh, boo hoo. Social dynamics. Sizing up the environment. You learn fast who runs the unit, what groups, racial, gang affiliated, religious are present, and what is considered disrespectful. You'll test the boundaries. Some inmates will test you. Gee, you think? Others may try to exploit, intimidate, or recruit you. First impressions matter. You watch closely how you carry yourself, who you talk to, who you respond with, how you respond to authorities. You have the mental health toll. Shock and depressing. Oh, no. Well, maybe you shouldn't have committed those crimes. The realization sets in. You're not going home anytime soon. You have panic attacks or sleep issues common in the first month, especially if you're not used to confinement. And then you have the risk of unaliving yourself. The first 30 days are statistically the most dangerous for self-harm. Oh, boo-hoo. Shouldn't have committed crimes. Start of adaptation. By week 3 or 4, you begin to learn who to avoid, who to stay under the radar, how to manage boredom and routine, when to speak and when to stay quiet. And that survival often means routine, respect, and self-control. Not something that sounds fun. Let's see. Krista Ray says, Bryan Kohberger will likely have his own tablet with music, email, and movies in his prison cell. Also, he can buy his own TV for his cell. That is very, very true. That is very, very true. So he's going to get all the privileges. Food and movies and email. All those things. And thank you, Krista, for the 5. I appreciate it. Again, we're just hit 11:03 here on the East Coast. We're waiting for this hearing to start. It's planned to be an all-day hearing, and we will cut to it. I will keep my talking to a minimization through the hearing. I'm going to cut away and go to the court TV feed because they do have and we will wait. We will wait. Again, I thank everybody for being here this morning. If you haven't already, please make sure to smash the like button. I would appreciate it. I'm going to refresh and ask and look at our poll question at the top of the chat. I asked, are you angry with the plea deal? 53% say yes. 47% say no. Wow. And that's 747 votes. I'm going to end that poll. Again, I will be here for the majority of the day. I do have to step off camera for about an hour because I have an appointment that I forgot about. I will let the feed run, and then I will come back to the feed when I'm done with my appointment. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. I appreciate it. And we're just waiting. We're waiting for the hearing to start. And I might dip out of this court TV feed and go to Law and Crime because we have a crawl on the bottom, and I don't want to be looking at 2 crawls. Let's go back to Law and Crime for the moment. All right. Let's just pull this feed for now.
Like
Get a
you
little
said, he was
conversation
vegan.
going.
I have a strong feeling that he was at that restaurant at times when Maddie was working. That's my strong belief based on everything that I've read about the case. Whether it's detailed in the file or not, that's just my personal feeling as an investigator who've investigated many murders. And by the way, you know me, I don't get wrapped around the whys of it. I think there's an inordinate amount of time spent concerned about the whys in the true crime community. But as an investigator and most of the homicides I investigated, Motive was not an element of the crime. It was not in the statute. We did not have to prove why somebody did something. And particularly in vicious crimes like this that have no sense to them, carried out by a psychopath, the reason why is never going to be satisfactory. It's never going to provide any comfort to the families. No one's ever going to be saying, "Oh, that's why. Now I understand." We're never going to understand his motivations. Whatever, if you want to hypothetically try to say in your mind, "Oh, you take something that he might say as to why," and try to figure it out, it's not going to make any sense to us. He's a psychopath. There is no why. This never should have happened. And so anything he tells us about why he did it, I quite frankly don't care.
Yeah, how do you
He's
and
an
how do you even
animal,
believe it?
he's evil, and I don't care what in his warped mind went through to tell me why he did this, because it's not going to make any sense to me, and I'm still going to be as devastated by what he did as I am before knowing
Very
that
true.
stupid, illogical reason.
No, and that's very important context as we head into today. And did get a question from Cheryl Annie, who asks, have other families arrived? At this point, we know that all families have arrived except for the family of Ethan Chapin, which that family did say they would not be attending today. Just got the notice that we're going to go live into the Ada County Courthouse as the sentencing hearing of Bryan Kohberger is now getting underway, and we'll take that here live on Law and Crime.
Here we go.
Ms. Jennings, Mr. Hurwitz, Mr. Nye, and Ms. Allen. This is the time set for sentencing in this case. The defendant previously entered a plea of guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. In exchange, the parties stipulated to recommend a sentence consisting of, on burglary, 10 years fixed, on each of the 4 counts of first-degree murder, life fixed. The parties waived pre-sentence investigation. To my understanding, neither party submitted a sentencing memorandum or other materials for the court. Court is familiar with the file and the evidence submitted previously by the parties as it has reviewed them throughout the case and in anticipation of trial. Is there any legal cause why sentence should not be imposed at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Does the state, before impact statements and arguments, wish to present evidence today?
Your Honor, the state does not intend to present evidence in a documentary, since we have provided the court
No closed caption.
with photographs that we would like to use during the course of our sentencing argument.
Sure. All right.
Thank you.
But no testimony other than impact statements?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. So with that, let's start with then impact statements.
Ms. Jennings will be introducing
And my understanding, just so I'm clear, I indicated through the trial court administrator that we need to see if any of the victims wish to have the camera not running in audio only. And my understanding is all of them indicated they are fine with the video. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
All right, very well. Go ahead.
Your Honor, the first, and we're taking these in the order, victim impact statements in the order that the charges were listed in the indictment. The first charge being burglary. So we will have Bethany Funka's statement, and she has asked that her friend Emily Allant read that statement.
All right, any objection to that? All right, very well.
Bethany Funk speaking first, using a friend. Wow.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be speaking on behalf of Bethany, and so, yeah, here it reads. My name is Bethany Funk, and I was roommates with Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. I not only lost some of my best friends, but I also lost a sister. Never in a million years would I have thought that something like this would have happened to my closest friends. I thought that we were going to wake up and go upstairs, see them and tell them how they had scared us, and that they were going to tease us about how we are constantly scaredy cats. I make jokes about it as we would go to Taco Bell like always. But sadly, that is not what happened and what turned out to be my worst nightmare. When I first woke up that morning, I had no idea what happened. I woke up around 7 with a terrible toothache. So I called my dad, who is a dentist, and he asked what I should do. He told me to take Advil, so I did, and I went back to sleep. I was still out of it and still didn't know what happened. If I had known, I of course would have called 911 right away. I still carry so much regret and guilt for not knowing what had happened and not calling right away, even though I understand it wouldn't have changed anything, not even if the paramedics had been right outside the door. I was so frantic that morning and scared to death, not knowing what had happened. And when I made the 911 call, I couldn't even get out the words. And from then on, I don't remember a thing. It was like my brain wiped that whole memory. That was the worst day of my life. And I know it always will be. While I was still in shock, trying to process the fact that my friends were truly gone, I had been attacked by the public. I was grieving, numb, and unsure of what had happened was even real. And at the same time, I was getting flooded with death threats and hateful messages from people who did not know me at all or know the dynamic of our friendship. Social media made it so much worse, and strangers made up stories to entertain themselves. The media harassed not just me, but also my family. People showed up at our house. They called my phone, my parents' phones, other family members' phones, and we were chased while I was still trying to survive emotionally and grieve the loss of my friends. I hated and still hate that they are gone, but for some reason, I am still here and I got to live. I still think about this every day. Why me? Why did I get to live and not them? For the longest time, I could not even look at their families without feeling sick with guilt. I did not know what to say or what to do. I was terrified that my presence just made their pain worse. And I was still here when their kid, their siblings, and their friends, their loved ones should have been here instead. After everything happened, I was afraid to go into my own backyard or alone in my house. I was scared that the person who did this would come for me next. I was always scared that the media would try to catch me at any moment of any day, even when I was just walking around my house. I made my parents close all the blinds during the day so no one could see me even in the slightest chance. I barely left the house, and when I did, I made sure I was never alone. I slept in my parents' room for almost a year. I made them double lock every door, set an alarm, and still check everywhere in the room just in case someone was hiding. And I still check my room every night before, and I double lock it. I have not slept through a single night since this happened. I constantly wake up in panics, terrified. Someone is breaking in, or someone is here to hurt me, or I'm about to lose someone else that I love. The fear never really leaves. For a long time, I could barely get out of bed. But one day I realized I have to live for them. They did not get the chance to keep living, but I do, and I will not take that for granted. So now every day I remind myself to live for them, and everything I do it with them in mind. I am still scared to go out in public, but I force myself to do things because I know that they would want me to keep living my life to the fullest. I am beyond blessed to still be here, and I refuse to take that for granted when they did not get a chance. Our house was not just a house, it was a home. It was where we laughed till we couldn't breathe, make meals, did crafts, binge watch reality shows, played games, and spent lazy days on the couch. It was movie nights, wine nights, morning debriefs, pranks, hot chocolate, cookies, and warmth. I would cherish those memories forever, and I will not let what happened erase how special our home was or how much those memories meant to me. Now, I would like to share some bits and pieces of who they were as people and some of the memories that we shared. One of my favorite memories was Halloween, and we all went to Sigma Chi. But instead of partying, we just sat in an apartment, talking and laughing all night long. I do not think I've ever laughed that hard in my life. We did not care about the party. We were just happy to be with each other. Xana was 1 in a million. She was the life of the party. But she was also the kindest and funniest person I knew. Everyone loved her because she made everyone feel so loved. She was just someone you always wanted to be around, no matter the circumstance. One of my favorite days with Xana was when she laid on the couch, when we laid on the couch together all day watching movies and snacking. Or when she, Maddie, and I would go and get margaritas, chips, and salsa. She would also light up a room with her presence alone. Kaylee had the most beautiful, radiant smile. And she was so kind, but also one of the funniest people I've ever known. She loved playing little pranks. She always had us laughing so hard that we could not breathe. She was so full of energy and life. I really believe that she could have ruled the world if she wanted to, and she would have been America's sweetheart. Ethan was the sweetest, most genuine guy. He was always smiling and always making other people smile too. Ethan was the kind of person you wanted around. He was so kind and easy to talk to, and just so fun. And the way he cared for Xana was truly something to admire. And really was proof that storybook love and true romances really do exist. It was not only obvious to me, but everyone that was around Ethan and Xana that they were absolute soulmates. Maddie was not only one of my best friends, but she was the older sister I would have always wanted. There was no one I looked up to or admired more than Maddie. She was truly a ray of sunshine, and everyone was drawn to her. She was so kind, loving, funny, fun, and passionate. She had the sweetest soul and wanted nothing but the best for everyone, and to love and show love to everyone. She took me under her wing and always made me feel so safe and included, and above all, loved and valued. She never failed to make me laugh or put a smile on my face. Still to this day, I am beyond grateful that she chose me to be her sorority little, and I thank God every day that I not only got to know her, but had her as one of my best friends. Honestly, I cannot pinpoint one favorite memory with Maddie because I have so many, and this would be a very long read if I did. But if some little memories with her that I cherish is when the two of us made a nice dinner and split some wine, or when we would binge watch Jersey Shore or Summer House. When we came up with a whole dance routine on Halloween and danced and sang all night, like no one was watching. All the late night walks home from going out, and just little shopping trips and so much more. I am beyond blessed that I had the chance to know each and every one of them. They changed my life in ways I would have never put into words. I hope that they are remembered for who they are, not what happened to them, because who they are were so beautiful, and they deserve to be remembered in the highest way. My heart breaks every time I go to text one of them or how badly I wish I could see and hang out with them. And then I remember I cannot. I will never be able to again. But I still talk to them in my prayers every single night, and I always will. I wish more than anything I could hug them one last time. And I wish I could tell them how much I love them. And even though I cannot, I still tell them every night. I will keep living for them as long as I am lucky enough to still be here. And they were all truly one of a kind, and they will be in our hearts forever and always.
Thank you. And please convey to Bethany my appreciation for her courage, and I hope that she heals.
Next is Dylan Mortensen. We're asking for some accommodations for Ms. Mortensen and that she be allowed to sit in my seat.
Sure. Dylan, just take your time, all right?
Thank you, Your Honor. What happened that night changed everything. Because of him, 4 beautiful, genuine, compassionate people were taken from this world for no reason. He didn't just take their lives. He took the light they carried it into every room. He took away how they made everyone feel safe, loved, and full of joy. He took away the ability for me to tell them that I love them and that I'm so proud of them. He took away who they were becoming and the futures they were going to have. He took away birthdays, graduations, celebrations, and all the memories that we were supposed to make. All of it is gone. And all the people who loved them are just left to carry that weight forever. He didn't just take them from the world. He took them from me, my friends, my people who felt like my home, the people I looked up to and adored more than anyone. He took away my ability to trust the world around me. What he did shattered me in places I didn't know could break. I was barely 19 when he did this. We had just celebrated my birthday at the end of September. I should have been figuring out who I was. I should have been having the college experience and starting to establish my future. Instead, I was forced to learn how to survive the unimaginable. I couldn't be alone. I had to sleep in my mom's bed because I was too terrified to close my eyes. Terrified that if I blinked, someone might be there. I made escape plans everywhere I went. If something happens, how do I get out? What can I use to defend myself? Who can help? And then there are the panic attacks. The kind that slam into me like a tsunami out of nowhere. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't stop shaking. All I can do is scream because the emotional pain and the grief is too much to handle. My chest feels like it's caving in. Sometimes I drop to the floor with my heart racing, convinced something is very wrong. It's far beyond anxiety. It's my body reliving everything over and over again. My nervous system never got the message that it is over, and it won't let me forget what he did to them. People call me strong. They say I'm a survivor, but they don't see what my new reality looks like. They don't see the panic attacks, the hypervigilance, the exhaustion, the way I scan every room I enter, the way I flinch at sudden sounds. They don't know how heavy it is to carry so much pain and still be expected to keep going, and that's because of him. He stole parts of me I may never get back. He took the version of me who didn't constantly ask, what if it happens again? What if next time I don't survive? He may have shattered parts of me, but I'm still putting myself back together. Piece by piece, I'm learning how to live in this new version of life. It is not easy. It hurts, but I'm still trying. Still trying, and I'm not trying just for me. I'm trying for them, my friends. About a year ago, I had a dream about them. I got to say goodbye. I told them I won't be able to see you again, so I need to tell you goodbye. They all kept asking why, and all I could say was, I can't tell you, but I have to. When I woke up, I felt shattered and heartbroken. but also strangely grateful. Like maybe in some way that dream gave us the goodbye we never got. Still, no dream can replace them, and no goodbye will ever feel finished. He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. A body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil. He feels nothing. He tried to take everything from me. My friends, my safety, my identity, my future. He took their lives, but I will continue trying to be like them, to make them proud. Living is how I honor them. Speaking today is to help me find some sort of justice for them. And I will never let him take that from me. He may have taken so much from me, but he will never get to take my voice. He will never take the memories I had with them. He will never erase the love we shared, the laughs we had, or the way they made me feel seen and whole. Those things are mine. They are sacred, and he will never touch them. I get to feel sadness. I get to feel rage. I get to feel joy even when it's hard. I get to feel love even when it hurts. I get to live. And while I will still live with this pain, at least I get to live my life. He will stay here, empty, forgotten, and powerless.
Dylan, thank you so much for your courage. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this dude's loving this. Ooh, this is tough to hear.
Next, we have members from the Madison Mogan family. First would be Scott Laramie, Madison Mogan's stepfather. Standing by him is Karen Laramie, Madison's mother.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Scott Laramie. I'm Maddie Mogan's stepfather and the husband of Maddie's mother, Karen Laramie. I will read this victim impact statement on behalf of Karen and myself. Maddie was our gift of life, our purpose, and our hope. Maddie quickly became Karen's joy, identity, and purpose in life. I joined Maddie's life when she was 2.5 years old. Experience transformed me into a life of joy, love, and family. Maddie was bright, beautiful, kind, empathic. She listened carefully to others and was observant, seeing and caring about the hearts and the minds of all she encountered. She loved music and music festivals. She had a wonderful sense of humor. She excelled in school. She was an easy child to raise, almost never requiring discipline, and almost always giving us parental joy. One time Karen remembers disciplining Maddie as a little girl. Maddie responded, "You broke my heart," which of course melted ours. She had a keen wit, even at that young age. As she transitioned into teenage years, she prioritized us and extended family over many of the distractions that capture teenagers. She showered us with her presence and love at family events, barbecues, picnics, birthdays, holidays, and others. She spent countless hours with her papa, her Uncle David, Aunt Nadine, and her other close family and friends. This world was a better place with her in it. As she reached adulthood, Maddie applied her studies to be a marketing professional entering into an internship at Payne West, and started planning her professional future. As with all things, she involved Karen and myself in the joy of her journey. As she transitioned into womanhood, Karen and I continued to be astounded at this wonderful and accomplished person we had created. All parents dream of their children accomplishing more than them. We realized this dream, all we had not become, she was becoming. Karen and I are ordinary people, but we lived extraordinary lives because we had Maddie. Maddie was taken senselessly and brutally in a sudden act of evil. She was taken along with the young, promising, and bright lives of Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. First, we felt disbelief. Next, we felt disorientation. Then we felt grief overcome us. Our grief is compounded even more for the Goncalves, Kernodle, and Chapin families. We speak of hope and healing, and we do have hope and some healing. But the vast emotional wound will never fully heal. Since Maddie's loss, there's emptiness in our hearts, home, and family, an endless void. After losing her mother in a car crash, Karen took years to grieve and recover. The feeling that her life with Maddie and A was perfect helped her to start to heal. Now, this is no longer perfect. After Maddie's loss, Karen felt like she was spinning out, emotionally collapsing into anxiety and depression. She sometimes asks, how am I supposed to go on when I've lost my favorite person in the world? I felt the same, and we continue to struggle. The loss of Maddie has impacted so many beyond our family. Her second family is her sorority sisters who grieve alongside us. She has so many close friends who suffer from her loss. We will continue to be her loss will continue to be felt by the Vandal community, including Vandal Solutions on campus, where she volunteered her time for others. It helps us to know Maddie is in heaven now, freed from the trials of this earth. We, however, continue to live on without the grace and support of her presence. We will grow old without our only child, our bright, beautiful friend and daughter. In the end, there are no words that can accurately capture the devastation of losing Maddie. We will endure, and we will go on. For Maddie, we will not let our grief consume us. For Maddie, we will continue to love and care for our family and friends, including the families of Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. We will remain united with them. We can only hope that others out there suffering similar losses can look to us and see that we can overcome hatred, darkness, and evil. We know the law allows us to comment on the defendant and his sentence. As for his sentence, we support the plea agreement. Society needs to be protected against this evil. As for the defendant, we will not waste the words, nor will we fall into hatred and bitterness. Evil has many faces, and we now know this, but evil does not deserve our time and attention. We are done being victims. We are taking back our lives. We will turn our time, talents, and attention to hope, healing, and helping others and to the future. We invite all those who have suffered with us on this to join us in our journey. We can make this world a better place. We can move on from tragedy. Adversity will visit us, evil will visit us, but we will overcome. We can and will endure. Karen and I express our gratitude to Your Honor and to the prosecution team for allowing us the opportunity to make this statement. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your courage, and I am so sorry for your loss. God bless
Your
you.
Honor.
Your Honor, this is Leander James. He's the attorney for the Mogan family and victim advocate. He'll be reading a statement for Karen Laramie.
May it please the court, counsel. My name is Leander James. I am the pro bono counsel for Karen and Scott Laramie. Karen has asked me to read this statement into the record. I thank my husband, Scott, for his statement, his courage, and his unending love and support during this dark time. While words are inadequate to capture the impact of this horrific crime on our family, he expressed it as best anyone could. For Maddie's sake, I will add my supplement statement that incorporates additional impact in the context of my extended family. I am grateful to Maddie's great uncle, Bryan Kohberger, for assisting me with the difficult task of putting our pain into words. For me and my extended family, Maddie was our hope and our light. Her beauty, both outside and in, shone its light upon everyone with whom she came in contact. Her beauty, she carried that hope and light into the future for our entire family. We have memories of our Maddie and grief and pain at her being taken from our presence. Any one of us would have given our own light to have been outshone by hers. We now look to our Creator to know that her light continues where we look to see her in His presence. Those who commit evil for their own twisted gains and purposes truly defile the efforts and sacrifices of mothers, fathers, families, teachers, clergy, public servants, service members, and all those who commit themselves to the greater good, freedoms, and the future light of our nation. Condemnation falls heavily upon those who squandered the lives of our future hopes and dreams. Some may offer forgiveness for what the defendant has done. However, we cannot at this time, or perhaps ever, nor will we ask for mercy for what he has done. His acts are too heinous. The agony and grief he has caused, too great. But we will waste no further words or thoughts on him. For Maddie's sake, we will move on. We will do our best to carry Maddie's light into this world and make it a better place. I thank the court and the prosecution for allowing me the opportunity to make my statement. And I thank all those who have and will support my family and the families of Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Laramie. Appreciate it.
Next is Ben Mogan, the father of Maddie Mogan.
Yes, of course.
Actually, Your Honor, it'll be Kim Cheeley, the grandmother of Maddie Mogan.
My name is Kim Cheeley. I was Maddie Mogan's paternal grandmother, as Ben Mogan, her father, is my son. I'm here today with my sister Lori Cheeley, Maddie's great aunt, and my son Ben Mogan, and my daughter-in-law Corey Hatrock. I'd like to begin by thanking a number of people involved in bringing this case to closure. In my daughter's words, the plea deal the prosecution team reached this month is one that punishes the perpetrator of this horrendous crime, protects the public from further harm, and allows all of us who knew and loved these kids the time to grieve without the anxiety of the long and gruesome trial, the years of appeals, and potential for mistrials along the way. My family and I are so grateful to Bill Thompson and his prosecution team for their dedication and painstaking work that forced the perpetrator to admit his guilt. We want to thank the Idaho State Police, the Moscow Police Department, the FBI, and Judge Hippler. We'd also like to thank the University of Idaho officials who have treated the families of the victims with such dignity and kindness, and who have honored the 4 victims beautifully. Maddie was my first grandchild, so when she was born, all her grandparents had the distinct pleasure of deciding what we'd like to be called. I chose Nana, pretty original. But when Maddie was about 1.5 years old, her papa, Ben's dad, and I were planning to visit the new little family in Oregon. Maddie didn't have an extensive vocabulary at the time, but for some unknown reason, she called bananas ba-deedle-deedles. When Karen and Ben told her Nana was coming to visit, she figured, I say deedle-deedle for that word. So I became Deedle-Deedle, shortened to Deedle when she was about 6 or 7, and I was Deedle all her life. I don't think her stepdad, Scotty, ever knew my given name was Kim. Maddie's and my birthdays were 1 day apart, and a couple years before she was killed, she gave me this necklace with Deedle and Maddie engraved on it, and I added an angel wing, and it's one of my treasured possessions. I also got an angel wing tattoo, never thought I'd see the day, but along with many members of our family, replicating the one that Maddie and her sorority sisters had. I wanted mine where I could see and touch it often. From preschool through grade school, I stopped teaching piano lessons early on Wednesdays and picked Maddie up for bubble baths, brownies, and books. It was our special time together. And she went home those nights in her jammies with a pan of warm brownies for her family. Although Karen and Scotty raised Maddie and did such a lovely job of parenting, we Mogans were lucky to have her for holidays and many other family gatherings. We'll always have our treasured memories of Maddie growing up in our big, extended, cooperative family. And I thank Karen and Scotty Laramie for being so generous and open and sharing Maddie with her Mogan side of the family. When the 4 kids were murdered, the foundation fell out of our world. Initially, the fear was truly debilitating. The first 6 weeks were excruciating. Despite the vigils, memorials, candlelight gatherings of students, friends, family, community members. After the arrest in the past 2.5 years, my family has lived with grief, with the effects of traumatic grief, of which I was blissfully unaware before all of this. I now have a stack of books on grief. I've attended grief classes at hospice. I've tried EMDR, a technique that helps replace disturbing visions with something more comforting. My son, Ben, his two sisters, Maddie's aunts, and I have all experienced depression and anxiety and sleep disturbance, requiring medical intervention at times. We've all sought counseling off and on. The struggle with media attention was extremely difficult, especially for Ben. No one should live through the violent murder of one's child. Some days it's beyond me how the parents of these kids are still upright. I'm thankful for the strong families and communities that are supporting the survivors. At the time, I could think of only two blessings surrounding the horrific murders. One was that Ben was living with my partner Tom and me at the time, and that we could support each other emotionally through it all. Sadly, Tom died a year ago of a rare brain cancer, and he won't be here to see justice served. He was our family's rock, and we all miss him every day. A second blessing is that my mother died of COVID several months before the kids were killed, and she didn't have to live through the horror. It was difficult to identify blessings. So we've all lost our dear child and a future with her. I ache for the loss of the dreams that she and her true love, Jake, held. And my heart goes out to Karen and Scotty and your side of Maddie's family. You've had more than your share of loss. My heart aches for the kids' roommates and the families of the other victims, and also the family of the perpetrator. Going forward, we Mogans are choosing to put our energy and focus into honoring Maddie's too short life and sweet spirit by celebrating Maddie May Day, which my two daughters established. On May 25th each year, Maddie's birthday, we encourage folks to do random acts of kindness in Maddie's name. In my daughter Katie's words, may we all protect our peace in whatever way possible, unite in community, and focus on joy. Please do an act in kindness in Maddie's honor during this week, so a glimmer of Maddie's light may live on. Thank you.
Thank you, and appreciate your courage, and bless you and your family.
Thank you.
Now is Ben Mogan, Maddie Mogan's father.
I'm Benjamin Mogan. I'm Maddie's dad. And first, I just want to say thanks to all the people that helped bring this all to a close. I know it's not the resolution that everyone wanted, but I think that that everyone worked so hard, and we really appreciate all their efforts. It was such a hard thing to go through for everybody. Maddie was my only child that I ever had. She's the only great thing I ever really did, and the only thing I was really ever proud of. And I thought we would have the rest of our lives together to be together and to know each other, and I took for granted the times, you know, she was in college, and I thought, oh well, we'll have the rest of our lives to just do all the stuff that we're supposed to do, and she was just about done. She actually earned all of her credits for her college degree, and Karen and Scotty and I got to go and get her diploma that she actually earned, and she deserved every bit of that. And but I thought that that was going to be just the beginning of a long life together, and we never got that. Karen and Scotty did such a great job raising her after Karen and I split up, and I'm so thankful for Scotty and the role that he played in her life when I wasn't able to. But we got to spend a lot of great times together, Maddie and I. She was my favorite person to go to a concert with. We got to see some fun shows together, and I told her, if there's ever a show that you want to go to, let me know, and I'll get you tickets for you and your friend, or if we want to go together, we'll make it happen. And my favorite memory with her was when the Mac Miller show sold out here in Spokane, and everyone wanted tickets, no one could get them, and on the last day before the show, they did a radio thing, and I got 4 meet and greet tickets for Maddie and her friends and me to go and see the show, and that was her favorite artist at the time, was Mac Miller, and he's gone now too, and my little cousin Zach drove us all there that night, and he's gone too, tragically. And anyway, the last thing that she ever wrote to me was this Father's Day card, and I'm so glad I still have it. I'm just going to read what she said. It says, "Happy Father's Day. I hope you have the best day. I can't wait till we can hang out again soon. I'll be in Coeur d'Alene 624 to 74. Hopefully we can find a time then. I loved your birthday card that you sent me, by the way. Maybe we can see a concert sometime soon. I'd love to see the gorge when it's not so smoky out. I hope you're doing well. I'm proud of how far you've come. Thank you for always encouraging me to do my best. Love you lots and lots. Love, Maddie May." She did encourage me to not just to do my best, but to live on. I went through a lot of issues with addiction and with substance abuse, and when I wasn't wanting to live anymore, she was what would keep me from just not caring anymore, and knowing that she was out there and that she was just such a beautiful person kept me alive a lot of rough moments, and I'm so glad that she was able to meet Jake. He was the only one that I actually ever got to take her to the gorge. They went and saw Watershed together, and yeah, they had a heck of a time. So glad she got to. That's a really special place for me, and she always wanted to work out there with me in the summer sometime. She never got to, but at least she got to see it once with Jake. He was such a great guy. He is such a great guy, and I really wanted to see what a future with them would have looked like. I'll never, I'll never be able to replace her. I wrote a bunch of stuff. I just don't know what to say right now. I just miss her so much, and I just love her more than anything. And this shouldn't have happened. And a death sentence is one thing. You know when it's going to happen, and it's going to be all gentle and stuff. But life without parole, with a building full of people that all just want you to not be around anymore, and winking at every morning, not knowing if that's the day they're going to pull your card. I mean, it's not a very nice sentence either. So, I don't know. I just love you, Maddie, and I wish you were still here.
Thank you so much.
Your Honor, next would be members from the Kaylee Gonsalves family. First will be her father, Steve Gonsalves.
Today, we are here to finish what you started. Today, you've lost control. Today, we are here to prove to the world that you picked the wrong families. The wrong state, the wrong police officers, the wrong community. You tried to break our community apart. You tried to plant fear. You tried to divide us. You failed. Instead, your actions have united everyone in their disgust for you. I just learned from these lead investigators, to their shock, they worked in an investigation and actually worked with Pennsylvania police officers and the federal FBI. You united everyone. Everyone was united after you. None of us are divided. We are united in our disgust and our love for these children. Today, you have no name. Because when this all started, we all came together and we said, let's stop even talking about his name and just use initials. So even the media just calls you BK. That's all you are. Looking back when the police officers knocked on my door, told me what happened to my child, told me what happened to Maddie Mae, I don't think he was even out of the driveway before my kids turned around, looked at me and said, what do we do, Dad? I told him, you get to work. You get your ass to work. And we started calling, we started texting, we started emailing. And you know what? Within hours, we had your white car on the camera. We knew from the very beginning we had you. Police officers tell us within minutes, they had your DNA, like a calling card. You were that careless, that foolish, that stupid. Master degree, you're a joke, complete joke. But we took this disaster and we did what we could. We put everything online. We took our kids, we took our images, we took everything that they did, their videos, their photos, the girls' pranks, Ethan singing. We put it out there, we shared it with the world. And the world united. And all they ended up, when they talked about this case, is they talked about Kaylee Jade, Maddie Mae, Xana, and Ethan. Everything what these people meant to us, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, we shared that with our community. Then we shared it with our state. We shared it with the country. And eventually we shared it with the world. The world's watching because of the kids, not because of you. Nobody cares about you. You're not worth the time, the effort to be remembered. In time, you will be nothing but 2 initials forgotten to the wind. No visitors, nothing more than initials on an otherwise unmarked tombstone. From this moment, we've all started. From this moment, we will forget you. We want to all leave in closing. One last thing. You picked the wrong family, and we're laughing at you on your trip to Penn. That will be today or tomorrow. I'll close with, God bless all the men and women that worked on this case and all the hard work that you guys did. You guys allowed us to grieve and allowed us to get through this. The amount of work that you guys put together and the way that you guys put it together was beautiful. There was hard times to be expected, but thank you all. God bless.
Thank you.
Your Honor, next is Stephen Gonzalez, Kaylee's brother.
Stephen's actually gonna pass. I'm gonna go. Okay.
Olivia Gonzalez, Kaylee's sister.
Hello, I'd like to start by thanking the court for allowing me the time and opportunity to speak today. My name is Olivia, and I'm the big sister of Kaylee Gonzalez, and I was blessed to love Madison Mogan as a sister too. I'm not here today to speak in grief. I'm here to speak in truth. Because the truth is, my sister Kaylee and her best friend Maddie were not yours to take. They were not yours to study, to stalk, or to silence. They were 2 pieces of a whole, the perfect yin and yang. They are everything that you could never be. Loved, accepted, vibrant, accomplished, brave, and powerful. Because the truth about Kaylee and Maddie is they would have been kind to you. If you had approached them in their everyday lives, they would have given you directions, thanked you for the compliment, or awkwardly giggled to make your own words less uncomfortable for you. In a world that rejected you, they would have shown mercy. Because the truth is, I'm angry. Every day I'm angry. I'm left shouting at the inside of my own head everything I wish I could say to you. The truth about me is when I heard the news, I didn't cry. I listened for them. I promised them I would, that I would fight for them, that I would show up no matter what it cost me. I swore I'd never let them feel alone. Because you see, I've always been their heavyweight. I've always been the one to fight the battles they didn't feel ready to fight themselves. All it ever took was a call, and they knew I would handle it for them, no matter the time, no matter the cost. They could wave their white flag because they knew I would never back down, not for them, and not even death could change that. Somewhere along the line, I started to think about what I would say to them if I was given just one last chance. If I could gather enough heartbreak or love or sacrifice or whatever it took to get just one message across, what would I say? Throughout this entire process, I've written my feelings down at every moment, my wishes, my love, my denial, my anger. And as one final act of love, I'd planned to read these thoughts, even jarring and discombobulating and not even making sense. Because for me, that was true love. As bare and as naked as it could be, not laced in pretty words or dressed for the occasion, but written through bleary eyes at 2 a.m. with clenched fists, angry at this reality. My true final act of love was to continue on without them, for them. That dream to read aloud my love to them, to bring meaning through pain, was the latest blow in realizing you don't deserve it. And Kaylee and Maddie don't need it. Kaylee and Maddie have always known my love, and they would never ask me to prove it by further victimizing myself to a defendant who has shown no guilt, no remorse, no apprehension. They would say to me, "Why would you give the satisfaction of showing vulnerability now? You promised you would never back down." And for that clarity, I'm thankful. I won't stand here and give you what you want. I won't offer you tears. I won't offer you trembling. Disappointments like you thrive on pain, on fear, and on the illusion of power. And I won't feed your beast. Instead, I will call you what you are: sociopath, psychopath, murderer. I will ask the questions that reverberate violently in my own head, so loudly that I can't think straight most any day. Some of these might be familiar, so sit up straight when I talk to you. How was your life right before you murdered my sisters? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your apartment? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this time. Why did you choose my sisters? Before making your move, did you approach my sisters? Detail what you were thinking and feeling. Before leaving their home, is there anything else you did? How does it feel to know the only thing you failed more miserably at than being a murderer is trying to be a rapper? Did you recently start shaving or manually pulling out your eyebrows? Why November 13th? Did you truly think your Amazon purchase was untraceable because you used a gift card? How do you find it enjoyable to stargaze with such a severe case of visual snow? Where is the murder weapon, the clothes you wore that night? What did you bring into the house with you? What was the second weapon you used on Kaylee? What were Kaylee's last words? Please describe in detail the level of anxiety you must have felt when you heard the Bearcat pull up to your family home on December 30th, 2022. Which do you regret more? Returning to the crime scene 5 hours later, or never, ever going back to Moscow, not even once, after stalking them there for months? If you were really smart, do you think you'd be here right now? What's it like needing this much attention just to feel real? You're terrified of being ordinary, aren't you? Do you feel anything at all? Or are you exactly what you always feared? Nothing. If you're so powerful, then why are you still hiding, defendant? You see, I'm here today as me. But who are you? Let's try to take off your mask and see. You didn't create devastation. You revealed it in yourself. And that darkness you carry, that emptiness, you'll sit with it long after this is over. That is your sentence. And it was written on the wall long before you ever pled guilty. You didn't win. You just exposed yourself as the coward you are. You're a delusional, pathetic, hypochondriac loser who thought you were so much smarter than everybody else. Constantly scolding, turning your nose up to grammar mistakes, nitpicking and criticizing others. You wanted so badly to be different, to be special, to be better, to be deep, to be mysterious. You found yourself thinking you were better than everyone else, and you thought you could figure out the human psyche and see through it, all while tweaked out on heroin. Lurking in the shadows made you feel powerful because no one ever paid you any attention in the light. You thought you were exceptional, all because of a grade on a paper. You thought you were elite because your online IQ test from 2010 told you so. All of that effort just to seem important. It's desperate. There is a name for your condition, though. Your inflated ego just didn't allow you to see it. Wannabe. You act like no one could ever understand your mind, but the truth is you're basic. You're a textbook case of insecurity disguised as control. Your patterns are predictable. Your motives are shallow. You are not profound. You're pathetic. You aren't special or deep, not mysterious or exceptional. Don't ever get it twisted again. No one is scared of you today. No one is intimidated by you. No one is impressed by you. No one thinks that you are important. You orchestrated this like you thought you were God. Now look at you, begging a courtroom for scraps. You spent months preparing, and still all it took was my sister in a sheath. You work so hard to seem dangerous, but real control doesn't have to prove itself. The truth is, the scariest part about you is how painfully average you turned out to be. The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because someone finally said your name out loud. I see through you. You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your fucking ass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Christy Gonzalez, Kaylee Gonzalez's mother.
Thank you, Your Honor. I never imagined having to speak to someone so devoid of humanity. For a long time, I didn't think I'd find the words low enough to meet you where you are. But now I realize this isn't about you. It's about what you've done to me, and I need you to hear it. When you murdered my daughter, Kaylee Jade Gonzalez, you didn't just take her life, you shattered others. You attacked what you could never be, and in doing so, you left a trail of devastation far beyond that house. You stole my peace. You've altered my every waking moment, every sleepless night, the way I view the world, people, safety, trust. It's all been changed by your cruelty. I no longer recognize parts of myself. Joy is harder to find. Laughter feels foreign. The world moves forward, but I'm suspended in a place of sorrow and rage. You've taken from me something that can never be restored. The grief sits with me every day, some days quietly, and other days so loud it drowns out everything else. The emotional toll you've inflicted on me is immeasurable. I live with a constant ache, with birthdays that are now memorials, with holidays that feel hollow, with empty chairs that scream louder than words ever could. I am forever changed. But for you, as a person working on a PhD in criminal justice, you really didn't think this one through. You're not that good. In fact, you're not that good at anything. You couldn't secure a job. You couldn't get along with others. You couldn't even get a female to look in your direction. All because you are pathetic. Now you're a joke in this courtroom. I wish I could crown you with a jester hat to complete your orange jumpsuit clown look. A dead killer doesn't kill again. So while I'm disappointed the firing squad won't get to take their shots at you, I'm confident that the men in prison will have their way with you in more ways than one. You will finally get what you wanted, physical touch. Just probably not how you were expecting it. See, you haven't beat the system. You've simply entered a new one, where the rules are cruel and the consequences will never end. You are entering a place where no one will care who you are and no one will ever respect you. You will be forgotten, discarded, used, and erased. You will always be remembered as a loser, an absolute failure. And when those prison doors slam shut behind you, I hope that sound echoes in your heart for the rest of your meaningless days. I hope it reminds you of what we all already know. You're nothing. May you continue to live your life in misery. You are officially the property of the state of Idaho, where your fellow inmates are anxiously awaiting your arrival. But it's okay, because they're there to help you. Hell will be waiting. Quick message from our youngest daughter. Aubrey wanted to say, you may have received A's in high school and college, but you're going to be getting big D's in prison.
Thank you. Do we have more from the Gonzalez family, or are you?
Yes. Next would be Shannon Gray, the Gonzalez family attorney. He'll be reading statements from Kaylee Gonzalez's grandmothers.
Morning, Your Honor. Shannon Gray, the attorney for the Gonzalez family. I actually have 3 statements, one from her aunt and 2 from her grandparents. This is from her aunt, Tammy Butts. You in the cloak of darkness made a decision to turn our whole family's world upside down forever. You in the cloak of darkness took our Kaylee J. Gonzalez away from us all without hesitation. Never have you shown any remorse or regret. We just get creepy, non-expressive stares as you have your team of women defend you. Kaylee was a strong, kind, fun-loving, caring person, and she will greatly be missed by all her family and friends for the rest of our lives. She had goals in life that you took from her and us. We lose on watching her enjoying her life, working hard and building the future she wanted. She was ready to start that after college life. You in the cloak of darkness took it all away. You left us without her future wedding, her future children that she would have added to our family. No more talking to her on the phone, going for a coffee, celebrating holidays. It's all gone. You in the cloak of darkness gave each and every one of Kaylee's family members their own lifetime sentence. You in the cloak of darkness also took our Maddie Mae from all of us. She was so genuine, caring, polite. She was part of our family. You came in, harmed our children that were younger women than you in their own beds. You're nothing, you're a coward. It's not right that you have received life. I pray that you meet your end in the cloak of darkness, burn in hell. I have 2 other statements, Your Honor. This is Linda Lucan's statement. This is Kaylee's grandmother. I really don't know how to address something so inhumane, but I will try. Nothing in the past 2.5 years has made any sense. All I get is you cowardly went into a home at night, filled with what I'm sure you thought was all sleeping girls, and went on a vicious killing spree for no other reason but to appease your demonic urges. You took my granddaughter Kaylee from us, plus 3 other beautiful lives. You took my granddaughter Kaylee, beautiful, sweet-souled, doll-faced Kaylee, who was getting ready to start her amazing life, who had such a bright future, who was loved by so many, who you were so envious of. She had a life you could never have. You are so beyond human. You're definitely a demon from hell. I truly wish your punishment would be the same death you inflicted on our kids. But I think you will meet some new friends in prison who will be there just to help you. Thumbs up. And I have one last statement, Your Honor. This is from Cheryl Gonzalez, Kaylee's other grandmother. John 1:5 says, light shines in the darkness, and the darkness overcomes it not. Somewhere in your life, some jealousy, envy, ego, something went dark. It pushed out all light until you became dark and evil. And when you saw my granddaughter and her friends, their light, because they have such a light, you couldn't stand it. Because the darkness in you could not stand the light in them. And so you decided to destroy it. Cowardly, you walked into their rooms in the dark and took their lives, hoping to get rid of your darkness. But you didn't. You failed. Because you know what was once a light shown only to their friends, families, and loved ones is now all over the world. Everyone sees it. Their smile, their beauty, their plans, everything they were and had. And you think you put a close to it, even that, but you didn't. Because they still exist. They are still light. They are still beautiful. You can never take that away. They will always be in the light of all eternity. And you will be in the darkness because you could not overcome it. You failed. I want you to be gone, more than gone. I want you to be cast out. Cast out from my life, from my family, from this earth. I will not allow your hatred to penetrate into my own soul. You did not get that power. You are evil, and in the end, evil is eradicated. You didn't take Kaylee's light, you spread it into the world. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. Are you moving to a different family now? All right, why don't we take a 10-minute recess? All right.
To the extent you think you're a criminal mastermind, you're not. You're pathetic. You have a master's degree, you're just dumb. And then on top of it, that also to the extent you're looking for notoriety, no one's going to remember you. You're just BK. So, and I do think Kaylee's sister who spoke, and that was one of the most impassioned victim impact statements I think I've ever heard. She asked a series of questions, the burning questions that we all have. And I'm wondering if maybe they were hoping that this would instigate him to make a statement when he has his opportunity at allocution.
Right, and we still don't know exactly what, if anything, he will say. He doesn't have to answer any of those questions. He doesn't have to explain the motive. He doesn't have to explain where the murder weapon is, but it'll be interesting to see what he says. I want to bring into this conversation now NBC's Gotti Schwartz. Gotti, let's talk about the Gonzalez family statements. You and I have both talked to those parents before. It's gut-wrenching, really, actually, to listen to everything they have been through and just the nightmare that the nearly past 3 years almost now, stretching into 3 years almost this fall, has been like, you could see just the pain come through there. Also the clapping, audible clapping in the courtroom. And also, what did you make of, Gotti? Do you see Steve Gonzalez, the father, turn the podium to directly confront Bryan Kohberger in a way that nobody else had done there, Gotti?
Yeah, no surprise there. I couldn't agree with Missy Moore. I've seen a lot of these types of statements. I've never seen one like the one that we just saw from Steve Gonzalez and his daughter. Incredibly powerful. And Missy was just describing almost like a goading. I think, you know, I've gotten to know the Gonzalez family since covering this, since this happened in 2022. And what Steve said after this murder happened and after they got the words that their daughter had been killed, all of the kids, I believe he said, came in and they said, "Dad, what do we do?" And he said, "Get to work, get your ass to work." And if you know the Gonzalez family, that's exactly what they did. They were looking for any types of clues. They were very aggressive about pursuing any and all leads. They had the picture. They knew that there was going to be a white car. And you see that continue on into today. They are not done with this. They were against the plea deal. And I believe what Missy was just saying is absolutely right. They are goading him. They are trying to get the answer that no one has asked. The judge has not asked that in this case. He didn't ask that during the plea hearing. We're hoping that we may see the judge ask that today. But the motive, why? That is the big missing question in all of this. And when you look at what Olivia's questions were, you know, what was the second weapon used on Kaylee? Where is the murder weapon? What clothes were you wearing that night? And what did you do with them? If you thought you were so smart, do you think you'd be here right now? And then she goes on to say that, you know, you're not special. You're not deep. You're not profound. No one is scared of you. And the truth is that you are as dumb as they come, stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered because someone said your name out loud. Very, very powerful statements directly at Kohberger. We did not see any reaction from Kohberger during any of the emotional, gut-wrenching statements that we were hearing earlier. He does have this manner of stoic intensity that we've seen in the past. And, you know, I'm not in that courtroom, but he was watching the Gonzalez family address him directly. Unclear what's going through his mind, unclear if the judge is going to ask him the big question, why? Why did he go into that house on King Road and kill 4 people, some of them while they were sleeping? But the Gonzalez family asking him directly today in court, pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I was struck too of just the emotionless, right? Just the unflinching. At times, I was looking to see if he was even going to blink, Gotti, as he was listening again to all of these families just unload their agony that they have experienced for nearly the past 3 years. Gotti, stand by. I want to also bring into the conversation now defense attorney and NBC legal analyst Danny Savalas, who has followed this case closely along with me for a while now. Danny, I obviously don't expect the judge to interrogate Bryan Kohberger, right? That's not the purpose of this sentencing. I will imagine, and I'm not as familiar with this judge's particular practice, I've seen it done a couple different ways. I do imagine the judge will have something to say to him and probably go through sort of his own impressions of what has led to this moment.
Absolutely right, Laura. And folks may not realize that judges really have a lot of discretion in how they want to run their sentencing proceedings. Now, when it comes to asking Kohberger to speak, that's one thing the judge simply cannot do. However, the defendant, as we may have already covered, has an absolute right of what's called allocution. He can speak if he wants to. The question is, does he want to? And coming into this hearing, I would have bet 98% chance that, number one, his attorneys told him, don't say a word. And number two, he would have agreed with that advice. However, one wonders, with all of the skewering, especially the Gonsalves family did to Kohberger, and they absolutely napalmed him, you have to wonder, they may have hit him in his ego where they know it hurts. Maybe he does get up and say something, but I still think it highly unlikely. No one can force him to say anything. And Gotti brought up a good point. But here's the thing that defense attorneys and prosecutors learn early in their career. You never really ask the question why, because you will never get the answer to why. It's not part of our criminal justice system. I know you know that too, Laura.
Yeah, but there's no question, given sort of the lingering, all of the lingering questions out there for these families, you can understand what they want to get to. They want to understand the motive, right? As Kaylee Gonsalves' sister, Olivia, said, why? Why did you pick them? Why did you stalk them? Why did you go to that house so many times before? All of those sort of pressing questions, they may never get the answers to today, but Danny, nothing stops him from doing interviews afterwards. Nothing stops Bryan Kohberger from talking as much or as little as he wants, right?
You're exactly right. But if you're thinking strategically, then if Kohberger wants to control the narrative, you might see this more in the form of him, maybe issuing a statement. Sitting down or doing a jailhouse interview probably would expose him to too much in terms of not getting whatever narrative he wants to get out. Or maybe he doesn't want to get any narrative out. Maybe he's happy keeping it in his head. But again, I mean, even as whether you're a prosecutor or a defense attorney, I, as a defense attorney, have often wondered, what in the heck was that defendant thinking? And believe me, often the defense attorneys never find out. Most of the time, we never find out. So too do members of the public, victims, their families, and prosecutors. Why is just not a question that is answered in our criminal justice system.
Thanks, Danny. Missy, the last sentencing that I heard that was this dramatic, and you and I were talking about it, was the one of Larry Nassar.
Yes.
Right? The one where you have sort of multiple victims, obviously very different crimes, very different circumstance. But when you see sort of just the level, the ripple effects on so many different families, I have to think that the judge is going to take that into consideration in some way.
Absolutely. When you're talking about specifically, let's talk about the two roommates who not only talked about the trauma that they experienced, saying, why did I get to be the one to live, and having to double lock doors and stay in the bedroom with their parents, and just having to live through that experience and everything that's happened after the fact. This is not something that is done in a day. This is trauma that they'll live with for the rest of their lives. So of course the judge is going to take all of that into consideration. And I think Danny brought up a great point. There's no real world where you get motive. Sometimes prosecutors present it, they don't have to, but the family wants to know. And
because the seeming randomness of it is part of what is so chilling about this case, right? Everybody thinks about sending their kids to college. Everyone thinks about sending their loved ones off the first time they're really on their own. It's every parent's worst nightmare.
Absolutely. It's stranger on stranger, quadruple murder. It just does not make sense. So obviously the families want to know. And something I think about Olivia and her statement that she made and what she brought up, I do think she's hitting them where it hurts. And I agree with Danny.
The ego,
because I agree with Danny that the advice would be don't speak. There's actually no incentive to do so. Sometimes in a sentencing hearing, you do hear from the defendant, and often it's because they're looking for some degree of humanizing themselves or talking about how they could be rehabilitated.
Some acceptance of responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's generally because it could impact their sentence. Here, we expect it to be, life times 4 without the possibility of parole. So what would be the incentive to actually speak? There truly isn't one, unless you hit someone in that ego. And exactly what we were talking about when you look at the profile of this type of person, and I think Olivia said, you're a sociopath. If you think that you committed the perfect crime because you're a criminology student, look at where you are right now. And again, that aspect of notoriety. And so that to me was maybe crack the door open. Is that enough to get him, when he has the opportunity to make his decision on his own to speak to the court? Would that be enough? I agree with Danny, unlikely, but maybe more of a chance than we thought coming into this hearing today.
Well, and in some ways, this is sort of an unusual situation. Obviously, plea deals happen every day all the way across America. In fact, plea deals happen probably more frequently than not. But since we know what the plea is, the judge really has his hands tied in a certain way, right? He's not going to give him the death penalty now that they've agreed on the life sentences. He's not going to give him anything less than life. And I wonder if somehow since it's all sort of baked in a pre-situation like this with a pre-agreement, whether that sort of limits how far the judge is going to go. In a typical circumstance, right, where we don't know what the sentence is going to be, the judge has to lay out, right, all of his reasons why, what are the mitigating circumstances, what was the childhood like, what happened to the victims. Here, there's less for the judge to really do in a certain way, but doesn't mean he's not going to have something to say.
Absolutely. I think he will say something, and he'll have to say something, because even though the defense and prosecution have agreed on what the sentence should be, the judge ultimately has the final say. So there is judicial discretion, and he's going to want justification on the record. To your point, Laura, this is a unique set of circumstances where that justification could simply be that there is no hope for rehabilitation given the circumstances, that there's deterrence, general deterrence for these types of crimes. When you look at the pillars of the criminal justice system, that's what we look at, and justifying a life sentence without the possibility of parole, waiver of appeal, all of the terms that we know are going to come to fruition when this hearing is over. But how far will the judge go? Because the judge does have ultimately discretion about what he will say about this case. He cannot ask the defendant to give us any further information. Defendant still has that right to remain silent,
right.
Can't ask about motive, can't ask any of those burning questions. But we know the judge from the reporting was tearing up.
Yeah.
Will he speak about the emotional impact that we've heard today in the courtroom on these families, the unspeakable crime that he has now pled guilty to and admitted that he committed these murders?
All right, looks like they're back on the bench here with Xana Kernodle's family. Let's listen in.
Just want to say thank you to everyone who's been involved in this, and just for all the hard work and dedication you guys have put into this. I just want to thank everyone for the support, and just my family and friends who've been around through this time. I went back and forth on whether to speak today, because the truth is, you don't deserve power over my feelings.
Are in God's eyes. On November 13th, 2022, a piece of my heart was ripped away. There's no way to ever fully describe the weight of losing my sister, my best friend. No sentence or punishment will ever come close to the justice Xana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie deserve. Xana was everyone's best friend. She was kind, she was funny. She was a gift to each person she was able to make an impact on. Xana was someone I turned to when I needed direction or advice. Although I am her older sister, I often found myself looking up to her. She had a radiant energy that everyone loved, and she always knew the right way to approach a problem. She knew how precious and special life was, and she truly did live every day to the fullest. Yet her story was cut short by an act of evil. I believe in a God whose justice is not bound by this courtroom. I find peace knowing that judgment ultimately belongs to him. For your sake, I hope one day you feel the full weight of what you did. I hope you take accountability. I hope you truly experience the guilt and you surrender yourself to Jesus Christ. Because no punishment on this earth can ever compare to the isolation and pain of eternal separation from God. Xana deserved more. They all did. But I come here to say this. I am strong. I am brave. I'm a fighter, just like Xana. And you don't get to control how I move forward or what I believe. I walk with the comfort of knowing I will see my sister again. Xana didn't get the future she deserved. She won't be the maid of honor at my wedding, the cool aunt to my future children. I'll never hear her laugh or see her light up a room ever again. But I will carry her with me for the rest of my life. I will live in her honor, fight to be the best kind of woman and someone she's proud of, to make sure the world never forgets who she was. Xana's story doesn't end with what was taken from her. It lives through the love she gave, the people she touched, and the legacy our family will protect. Her light still shines, and her voice will echo louder than this pain. You didn't take that from us, and you never will.
Thank you.
I just want to say before I start, I'm Xana's dad, Jeff Kernodle. It's been a hard road down, you know, because she's gone. And I want to thank everybody, other their families that's speaking so far, spoke about things. I agree with everything they have to say. It all comes back to a lot of the same things that I've had to deal with and we as a family have had to deal with. And that brings me, you know, basis of what I'm talking about a little bit is on my way up here, flying up here in the plane and about halfway through the flight, this little girl calling out for her dad. Hey, dad. And then in my mind, I was kind of half asleep. It's dark on the plane. I heard Xana calling out for me like she did, you know, back when she was little, 5 years old. And those times were hard. It was chaotic, but we always had something to work toward that was in a positive direction compared to right now, which is necessarily not as positive as that for sure. And I know I miss Xana a lot. My life's been changed, and Xana had a great impact on me, and the impact was when she was gone. I realized how important she was and what she really did for me, influenced me, was way beyond what I ever thought. She'd call me up on the weekends, check on me, see who's with me. She's like accountability to your youngest daughter. And that really made a big difference. It made me really think about things and what it's all about, you know? That's the things that I miss the most is those calls on the weekends, the calls at 11 at night. What's going on? You want to meet my friend? You know, whoever she's with, a couple of her friends, I can meet them, talk to them. And she always did that. And it's pretty cool. I really miss that. And she made a big impact on me, on other people, her family, but the impact that she made is so extensive on what happened here. And it goes so far. People from everywhere in the world, you know, are following things, and Xana has made a difference in their lives. So, you know, countless people told me that they might not even know her. They never knew anything about her. It's what they see, and they just love her and say how they wish that she could have been their friend. You know, could have been their friend, could hung out, and it's like this is a blessing, you know. This is the little kid was, and definitely was a big blessing in my life. And so is Jasmine. And basically, you know, we worked hard to do the things we did that, you know, through the times they were growing up. And through those times, I realized that I wanted both of them to graduate college, and that'd be the ultimate thing for them to do to prepare for the world. Then it came back to me, Xana didn't get to finish college. He had it all figured out. And this all just came back to me when I was there and that little girl was on the plane doing that. It's like where I was going, what I was going here for. And then I just realized and thought to myself about the wonderful life that she had and we had together. And we, you know, I still get to have with Jasmine, but that's the part that really counted. It's the part that really counted is those memories. And those are what I have left, the memories with her and the ones I can make with her and the life that I can go on with now, which is what she wants. And I say that in present tense because that's what she wants, because I've been told that, you know, I've been countless ways that she's out there and has a way to communicate, which I'm very grateful for. That goes to say that the impact of what happened to them, all 4 kids, goes so much further than just not me, the parents, the families, the community. It goes so far because a lot of kids, you know, in the colleges, just for an example, they lock their doors now. The door wasn't locked in the back. You know, Penn State or wherever it was, all the colleges I know that I've heard, they all lock their doors now. So maybe the impact that it's going to make is going to help out and maybe protect some people. Having this outreach and having the influence of what these kids, what happened to these kids did, you know. All I know is I was 7 miles away when it happened, and she wasn't feeling that good. It was 11:30. And I almost went over to Susanna's to say, and I would have been sitting right there in that couch, and you had to deal with me. So they would have had a chance. And I regret that. And I regret not going. But the reason why I didn't is because Susanna said, don't be drinking and driving. You got the rental car, don't be drinking and driving, you know, the week before that. So she was, she would have been mad at me to do that. But I really wish I would have drunk and drove, you know, because they would have had a chance, all 4 of them. At this point, I just have to go on. We're going to go on with everything and make things better in my life, because that's what it's all about. If I have closure in things, and the part that we miss is Santa, her influence, her smile, the things that she did, and we have the memories left, the great memories, and she just wants us to make more memories and not be sad or upset or shocked or taken for that, you know. And that's what we're gonna do. We just have to. That's all I got.
Thank you for your words and your courage, and bless your family.
Next, Kim Kernodle would like to address the court.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Kim Kernodle. I am Xana's aunt. I was very blessed to have her in my life, in our family. And I thought I had everything in my head, what I wanted to say, but it kind of went out. And I'm always looking for the positive thing, because evil, hate can destroy people. And that's what it started doing with our family. It created anger with our family members. And then I had to look, because Xana was everything that the media, her friends said. She was that fun, loving, high-spirited, beautiful person. And I no longer get to get my nails done with her, have lunch with her. Sorry. But how I look at it now is this tragedy, this horrible tragedy on all of the 4 children, has brought us closer. You united us with your actions. We're united now, and we're stronger than ever. We have family and friends now that we never knew we had. And, you know, this is probably going to bother everybody, but Bryan, I'm here today to tell you I have forgiven you, because I no longer could live with that hate in my heart. And for me to become a better person, I have forgiven you. And anytime you want to talk and tell me what happened, get my number. I'm here, no judgment, because I do have answers or questions that I want you to answer. And I'm here. I'll be that one that'll listen to you. Okay? Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
My name is Stratton Kernodle, and I'm Xana's uncle, Jeff's brother. Sitting here today listening to the stories and feelings and feeling the pain from everybody is a pretty powerful thing. It's each time a statement was read, it sort of would tug into my center core as I felt everybody's anguish. And Xana meant a lot to us, and we loved her very much. But I started thinking about, instead of rehashing everything that everybody else was talked about, I wanted to direct it another direction toward Bryan and what he's done to his family, his parents, his siblings, his friends, his universe. He has contaminated, tainted their family name, and pretty much made a horrible, miserable thing to be ever related to him. And I know that that's what he has to live with, and that has to be his pain. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, I believe Randy Davis, stepfather to Xana Kernodle, would like to address the court.
Hi, my name's Randy, stepdad of Xana. I just feel the same way we all do. All of us are united because of something that happened. And I am grateful to know and have met some new family because of this awful event. But this is probably the last time we're all going to be in the same room together. Let's be real. So I can say, I love you all, and I feel your pain. And just God bless us all, you know, just get through it. I had stuff wrote up. It was probably best I didn't read it out. Probably get kicked out of here. So, you know, I'll share one thing to you guys, not to you.
with Xana. So I was working in North Dakota and came home, and Jazzy and Xana had taken our son Elijah and put him in a dress, makeup, and it was awful, you know. I was like, I don't know. She was funny. I told her she'd be in the movies and be somebody great one day like that. And now she is just above us as an angel with all the other beautiful kids. So let's hold that to our hearts, because this evil thing is not going to take nothing from us. You, man, I don't know what my limits are here, but I'm really struggling, dude. I am struggling. So I want to just be out in the woods with you, just so I can teach you about loss and pain. I love God. I wouldn't take your life. That's up to him. But I guarantee you, you are weak. God, I would just give a moment, man, 5 minutes out in the woods. Oh, man. Ooh. You're going to go to hell. I know people believe in other stuff. You're evil. There's no place for you in heaven. You took our children. You are going to suffer, man. I'm shaking because I want to reach out to you, but I hope you feel my energy, okay? Go to hell.
Next is Kara Northington, Xana's mother.
I'm Kara Northington. I am Xana Kernodle's mother. This letter is to you, really, but it's for my daughter, who was murdered by you. Today I stand before you, the man who is responsible for murdering my beautiful daughter, Xana Kernodle. My daughter was beautiful both inside and out. She possessed love for those around her and had a light so bright it will live on forever in our hearts. She brought joy and laughter to her friends, her family, and anyone in her presence. Our Lord and Savior now has her in his loving arms in heaven, where she can never be harmed ever again for eternity. Because of her, I came to know my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Because of her, many will come to Christ. It is Christ who lives in me that has given me the strength to forgive you. It was of no power of my own. In return, the Lord has filled me with joy, hope, and peace that surpasses all understanding. Jesus has allowed me to forgive you for murdering my daughter without you even being sorry or asking for this. This is only possible because he who lives in me is greater than any evil in this world. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. I do not fear you or even let you rent space in my head anymore. This forgiveness has released me from any and all evil you have inflicted on me and my family. It has allowed me to let our Lord deal with you. You have accepted a deal that will prevent you from receiving the death penalty. Nothing man can do to you can ever compare to the wrath of God. Inevitably, you will stand before our Lord and will have to answer to him over the sins you have committed in murdering our children. I pray you come to the end of yourself before that day. Whether you like it or not, heaven is for real, and so is hell. The innocent life of Xana that you stole from myself and my family, and the destruction it has caused. I am washing my hands of you and turning you over to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, whom vengeance belongs to. In closing, I want to read a passage from the Bible, Ephesians 6, King James Version. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and then in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, that ye may be able to stand in the evil day. I'm not going to share memories of Xana or any more of the goodness of her with you, because I do not want that to be in your head. I don't want it to be in your head. You don't deserve that. You don't deserve our good memories that we have. I do pray for you. I pray that you come to the end of yourself. I pray that before this life is over, that you ask our Lord and Savior in your heart and to forgive you. I do pray for that. But after today, I wash my hands of you, and you are no longer a thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't believe the state has any other victim impact statements.
Okay. All right, state can argue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just as a housekeeping matter to start, there will be the issue of restitution. That is, the documentation is being gathered, and we ask the court would defer that for 30 days so we can present it in an orderly fashion and make sure it's comprehensive for everyone.
Any objection to leaving restitution open in 60 days? All right.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think it's necessary and appropriate to share for everyone here, including the court, the background that brings us in front of Your Honor today for these proceedings. As the record reflects, and as everybody in this courtroom knows, the defendant has pleaded guilty to all 5 counts charged in the indictment. Under oath before Your Honor, he has admitted that the charges against him are true. He has reassured the court that he has not been coerced or threatened to make those admissions. And Your Honor did an extraordinary job in taking the pleas back on July 2nd. We appreciate the court's discipline and insight. The defendant has also waived appeal on the multitude of rulings from this court and Your Honor's predecessor in Latah County on dozens, literally dozens of motions seeking to dismiss the case, seeking to control or limit evidence, seeking to offer evidence that would not be appropriate. And we appreciate the court's consistent rulings based on the law, based on the facts. As Your Honor will recall, on June 18th, it's just really not that long ago, we appeared before this court for arguments on what became the defendant's final motions to this court. Motion where they wanted to offer evidence suggesting that other people were responsible for the defendant's actions, and the motion seeking essentially an indefinite continuance of the trial. It was readily apparent to all of us in the courtroom from Your Honor's comments that those motions were not going to be granted. So we returned to Moscow and continued with what we had been working on for months in preparation for trial. We had no qualms about going to trial if trial was what was necessary and appropriate. The following week after we were in court, we were approached by the defense with an inquiry about a possible plea. And I can tell the court this is the first suggestion ever that there was any consideration, because indeed the defense had maintained from the beginning that Mr. Kohberger, the defendant, was factually innocent. It's clear that the reality of the evidence and the case that had been investigated and prepared and that we were ready to present in court became a reality. Our reaction, among other things, was to reach out to all the families. And in fact, later that week, on Thursday and Friday of that last week of June, we met with representatives by teams, virtual meetings, with representatives of all the families. And we talked about the status of the case and the upcoming trial and things that related to the trial. And we also let them know that there had been an inquiry about whether there might be an offer for a plea. And we asked the family members for their thoughts and feelings. And they were candid. And they have been candid since, and we respect that. And we understand, recognize, and acknowledge that there was a difference of opinion among representatives of the different families. We understand that. One of the challenges of this case, one of the unique things about this case is we have multiple victims, each unique unto themselves, their families and friends unique unto themselves, and all of them entitled to their opinions, all of them entitled to their thoughts. Over the following weekend, our prosecution team, very skilled attorneys who were personally as well as professionally deeply invested in this case, met. And we talked, and the decision was reached. Well, to start with, were there to be any sort of plea offer or discussion, there's only one possibility. And that would be for the defendant to plead guilty straight up to all charges. There would be no bargaining about counts. There would be no bargaining about reduced sentences. And so we made the proposal to the defense that if the defendant was willing to plead guilty up front to all 5 counts as charged and waive appeal of the court's myriad decisions during the past 2.5+ years on all these motions that would have consumed years, if not decades, of time in the future. By the end of the weekend, we were notified the defendant was prepared to plead guilty as charged and factually acknowledge his responsibility in court for these horrible crimes. Obviously, those discussions and negotiations were confidential. And as Your Honor noted, I believe that was necessarily so, because if the defendant had decided not to plead guilty, it would have been devastating to our jury pool for there to be public information that there had been consideration by either party to a plea resolution. And protecting the prospective integrity of a trial after so many years was paramount. So, the end of the weekend came. We notified the victims' families of what had occurred. I recognize and acknowledge personally, and I respect the fact that of these fine, suffering people here, not everybody agreed with the decision we make. I accept that. It's my responsibility in the end. I recognize that that's the duty of the office that I hold. So now, it is time for the judicial system to impose final judgment and close the door on this chapter of these tragedies. As the court is aware, by the agreement of the parties, it is the state's prayer. Perhaps have the Elmo police turned on. Thank you. That on count one, the felony burglary, that the court sentenced the defendant to the maximum period of 10 years fixed in the custody of the Idaho Department of Correction. Then on count two, that the court sentenced the defendant to fixed life for the murder of Maddie Mogan. On count three, that the court sentenced the defendant to fixed life for the murder of Kaylee Gonzalez. On count four, that the court sentenced the defendant to fixed life for the murder of Xana Kernodle. On count five, that the court sentenced the defendant to fixed life for the murder of Ethan Chapin. And the state further prays that these sentences be ordered to run consecutively, back to back, not at the same time, to recognize and respect the unique individuality of each of these beautiful young people whose lives were taken brutally and for no reason. And hopefully now, as we have heard earlier this morning, it is time to afford the families and the friends and the community and the state of Idaho and the nation and the world to move forward. We can't undo, and we can never undo, the horror of what occurred on the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022 at 1122 King Street in Moscow, Idaho. For a long time, the presiding district judge in Latah County was John Stegner, who eventually became a member and a justice of the Idaho Supreme Court. And Justice Stegner often observed that even God cannot change the past. But everyone in this room has the ability to take themselves forward. And we want the judicial system to afford them the opportunity today to do that. From today forward, our memories should be focused on these innocent victims whose lives were taken, on their families, on their friends, on the community. The court has heard discussion, talk today, reminiscences today about a special family that our victims shared, not just their natural, legal, and biological families, not just their university family within their sororities, for example. But this family. This is the picture taken on November 12th, 2022, of the special family of 1122 King Road. And you can see all 6 of these dynamic, vibrant, loving, special, innocent faces taken together just across the street from their residence, and barely 12 hours before 4 of them would be brutally murdered in their sleep. They've been described consistently as being bright, caring, vivacious, with futures we can only imagine now. But they were, and they remain, a special family that I think we should all recognize and appreciate. So it's time to move forward. There have been a number of statements directed specifically at the defendant today. I have one last thought. After Your Honor imposes judgment and sentences the defendant to spend the rest of his life in prison, in other words, sentence the defendant to die in prison, he's going to stand up in the belly chains and the leg irons that he's wearing today, and he's going to be escorted into the custody of the Idaho Department of Correction. And the door will close behind him forever. That is the closure that we seek, that all of these people, these loving friends and family deserve, so that we can move forward. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, does the defense have evidence to present today? All right. Does defense wish to make argument today? All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
Well, please. All right, let me start this morning by acknowledging and thanking those that have come here today in support of their loved ones. And I appreciate your courage and your strength. And I hope that you are able to move on as best as possible. Thank counsel for the professionalism that they've exhibited throughout this case. It's been my great honor to preside in this case and to help bring to the extent possible, some resolution and hopefully justice to this case. During the quiet morning hours of November 13, 2022, a faceless coward breached the tranquility of 6 beautiful young people and senselessly slaughtered them, 4 of them. Who committed this unspeakable evil was unknown for several weeks, but due to the killer's incompetence and outstanding police work by numerous local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, the person that slithered through that sliding glass door at 1122 King Road now stands before the world and this court unmasked. This unfathomable and senseless act of evil has caused immeasurable pain and loss. No parent should ever have to bury their child. This is the greatest tragedy that can be inflicted upon a person. Parents who took their children to college in a truck filled with moving boxes had to bring them home in hearses lined with coffins. The loss this killer inflicted was not just the death of these people's children, siblings, grandchildren, as we've heard today. It has ripped a hole in their soul, destroying a special part of their very essence. Any person who is a parent defines themselves foremost as such. It is their existence and purpose of being. And it has been stolen from these parents. None of us have experienced the loss these victims have in the unspeakable way that they have. And therefore, none of us can, nor should we, question the way in which they have handled their loss. Whether that be in private mourning, removed as far as possible from this media circus, or in front of a camera demanding retribution with the loudest megaphone. I've listened intently to the stories and pain that have been shared today, with great awe at the courage and resilience of the surviving family members of those wonderful children. I've listened also to the surviving roommates, both in person and through their friends. And I can't think of how, frankly, courageous they have been despite the hell that they have faced by uncaring people who have come up with all kinds of crazy theories about 2 kids simply being kids. The parents, siblings, and other family members who have spoken today are designated as victims in our legal system. But going forward, I hope that they can shed that label, as it gives too much power to the evil that condemned them to that role. They are and should be known as survivors, fighters, and foremost as witnesses to the tremendous lives of value and unbounded promise of these 4 young people. But those speaking today and those who did not speak, but who carry the same burden, this same loss, now carry forward the memories of these now perpetually young people, these forever children. These survivors carry the responsibility of ensuring that the voices of these children, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, are never forgotten, and the positive impacts that they have had on so many lives are never minimized, and that the love they shared, the light that they shined onto others is forever celebrated. As we sit here today, this case is ending, and we are now certain who committed these unspeakable acts of evil, but we don't know, and what we may never know is why. I share the desire expressed by others to understand the why, but upon reflection, it seems to me and this is just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohberger relevance. We give him agency and we give him power. The need to know what is inherently not understandable makes us dependent upon the defendant to provide us with a reason, and that gives him the spotlight, the attention, and the power he appears to crave. Yet even if I could force him to speak, which legally I cannot, how could anyone ever be assured that what he speaks is the truth? Do we really believe, after all of this, he's capable of speaking the truth or of giving up something of himself to help the very people whose lives he destroyed? Rather, I suspect the so-called reason would be dished out in enticing, self-serving, and aggrandizing, untruthful bits, leaving people wanting more information, more insight, and thus enhancing even further the power he seeks to hold. Even if we could get truthful insight, it would not in any way quench one's thirst for actually understanding why in the first instance. Because there is no reason for these crimes that could approach anything resembling rationality. No conceivable reason could make any sense. And in the end, the more we struggle to seek explanation for the unexplainable, the more we try to extract a reason, the more power and control we give to him. In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame. It's time that he be consigned to the ignominy and isolation of perpetual incarceration. I know there has been concern about him collaborating on books or movies or other media projects, and I truly hope that someone does not stoop to affording him this spotlight that he desires in the name of clicks, royalties, or profits. While criminal behavioralists should study him away from the spotlight in an attempt to prevent other would-be killers from acting on their worst impulses, there should be no need for that to spill over into the public eye. The great Idaho jurist Edward Lodge was known for trying to find something positive about every person he ever sentenced. And with over a half a century as a trial judge, that was a lot of people. This was often challenging, and I recall in one case he said that the best he could come up with was the defendant had good penmanship. Truth be told, I'm unable to come up with anything redeeming about Mr. Kohberger because his grotesque acts of evil have buried and hidden anything that might have been good or intrinsically human about him. His actions have made him the worst of the worst. Even in pleading guilty, he is giving nothing hinting of remorse or redemption, nothing suggesting even a recognition or understanding, let alone regret for the pain that he has caused. And therefore, I will not attempt to speak about him further, other than to simply sentence him so that he is forever removed from civilized society. And accordingly, based upon his conduct and based upon the record before this court, recognizing the standards that govern this court's sentencing decisions as set forth in State v. Toohill, I hereby sentence Mr. Kohberger as follows. On count 1, burglary, 10 years fixed, 0 years indeterminate. I also impose a fine of $50,000. Count 2, first-degree murder of Madison Mogan. I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 3, for first-degree murder of Kaylee Gonzalez, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the victim of the family, or to the family of the victim, pardon me. On count 4, for the first-degree murder of Xana Kernodle, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 5, for the first-degree murder of Ethan Chapin, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. The sentences on counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 shall run consecutively to one another. Restitution will be left open for 60 days. Defendant will be required to submit a DNA sample and a right thumbprint impression to the Department of Corrections and comply with the DNA Database Act. I remand the defendant to the custody of the Idaho State Board of Corrections for to be imprisoned in an appropriate facility and execution of the sentence where he will remain until he dies. Though you have waived your right to appeal, you do have a right to file a notice of appeal, and any such appeal must be filed within 42 days of the date of the written judgment, which will be entered shortly hereafter. Though the appeal, you should be aware, may be deemed a violation of the plea agreement, and so I certainly suggest you discuss that with counsel if that is your desire. I ask the media and public present to allow the families to be escorted out first before they leave. Again, thank you to everyone for your stories today. I am strengthened by them, and I am encouraged by your humanity and strength. And God bless you. We're adjourned.
Ooh. Wow. I'm at a loss for words. I'm at a loss for words. We just, ooh. I don't know what to say. We just sat through a lot. I don't know if there's any words. It says some live coverage. I wonder if there's going to be a presser. I'm sure there will be, but this now concludes. I'm surprised they cut the feed so quickly. I wanted to see him brought out in chains. I wanted to see him stand up with the chains and had to walk through that courthouse, in through that door, like Hitler said, and it will close behind you forever. And we didn't get to see that. Thank you, Renee. I appreciate that. Wow. Heavy, heavy, heavy stuff. Very heavy. So we'll wait and see if we get a press conference here in a couple of minutes. I appreciate all of you for sticking through this live coverage today here on LTL Media. Again, we're covering the final sentencing of one Bryan Kohberger for the 4 Idaho student murders back in November of 2022. The chapter is now ended. As far as his legal ramifications, and unless there's something that goes on, while in prison. But hopefully you really never can move on as a family from something like this. They have to live with this for the rest of their life. And I said this at the very beginning of the stream. I feel like this was an exact power move by Kohberger. One, he didn't want all of the information to come out. He didn't want all the evidence to be seen by the public, which at some point we may get some of it. Looks like we are going to get some of it with the gag being lifted, but this is a power move in the sense of I'm not going to let the public hear everything in this trial. I'm going to stick it to these families. I'm going to take a plea because the death penalty is now off the table, and I'll spend the rest of my life in prison. And then that this opportunity at sentencing to speak as to why, he's not going to do that. He's going to let the family think on that. That is what they will live with for the rest of their lives. Every single day, just like Hitler said, every single day, they will live like this as to why. And that is the complete power move in this whole thing. Kohberger wanted the upper hand going out, knowing that he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, or even before the plea deal, you know, possibly being executed if convicted, and to take that power back and be silent once again and make these families think. So I hope that they can heal with everything that they have gone through. I don't know how I could do it if I lost one of my children in that way. I don't have kids, but if I lost a child in that way, do you ever heal from that? It's tough. I've never really been in that position. So let's go back up to the court feed here. Let's see.
He knew that he was not going to be compelled to allocute to anything. I think that, her comments united in one voice relative to the anger, the frustration, the loneliness, the emptiness. Because you have to understand something here, I think. It's not just the fact that Bryan Kohberger has now been sentenced for this massacre. He has sentenced these families to a life without their kids. And this is something that they will they will be serving consecutive terms forever and ever. Amen. There is no such thing as closure.
It doesn't
Please
go away.
understand that. It's a fallacy. It doesn't exist. When it comes to homicide victims, and these families are victims, this is something that he sentenced them to by his own heinous actions. And I think the sister kind of summed that up. And she had her say, and I think that she had her say on behalf of all these other families as well.
You just saw the impact too. And you think about many of us will forget about Bryan Kohberger. I mean, it's certainly, cases are covered and talked about forever, but after today, he goes off to this prison in Idaho, and then everybody else moves on with their lives. But the impact that this crime, the loss of life, has had on people, it just stood out that you're going to hear about it forever. And the Judge Hippler saying, Bryan Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame, that is now over. Like, that stood out to me, because this was a guy that didn't seem to have a lot of friends. He was someone who was awkward. He met people briefly at a party and they thought he was weird, and that was it. And then he has this 15 minutes of fame, and now it's over. What stood out to you when you looked at his body language today, as one person after another remembered their loved ones, but also just talked about, in so many ways, just how cowardly he is?
Reptilian. If I were to use one word, reptile-like, just blankly viewing these people who literally ripped their hearts out of their own chest and gave these descriptors of what these victims all meant to them. And he was non-reactive. I don't know what, I have no idea what that speaks to, Chris, but it's cold. It's heartless. It's almost like a marble countertop. It's so without life. And those people demonstrating their grief there in the face of the.
All right, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to hang for about another 15 minutes. Hopefully this presser happens. Mary just emailed me the details of the presser, and it says press release, July 22nd, 2025. After the Kohberger sentence hearing concludes, a news conference will be held inside the Idaho County Courthouse. Media will be permitted to bring cameras and equipment. Says approximately start time 45 minutes after 45 minutes after sentencing concludes. Okay, I can't do the presser. I've got to do some personal stuff today, so I'm going to conclude here today. I'm going to conclude. I have some personal stuff I got to do. It's been a long morning into the afternoon with all of us. I appreciate all of you hanging out. It's just wild. It's wild. You know, the whole thing is just, it's crazy and it's wild, and there's so much emotion that I'm still going through. I have plenty of videos here on my channel if you are all interested in going back and, you know, watching the videos that I did to talk about this case. And, you know, I want to thank all of you that came to this channel because of my coverage of the Idaho 4 and Kohberger case. We've had a long way, and I know that I kind of detoured a little bit and had to do something that was right here in the state of Massachusetts, and right, that I feel right, was get involved in Karen Reed's case and advocate for her. And, you know, I appreciate all you sticking around through all of that and following me through the Karen Reed case and continuing to help build this channel and, you know, seeing the vision of what I'm trying to do here. I really do love all of you and respect all of you for doing that. There'll be more that comes out. I truly believe that. I'm pretty sure you're going to hear from Steve, and, you know, they may need some time, but you might see some reactions out of them, maybe on Banfield, or, you know, maybe they do a presser. I don't know. You know, they want to just move on with their lives. They want to end this, rightfully so. So it's been a long road. We continue to build LTL Media here. I guess this concludes the Kohberger case on this channel, unless something else majorly comes up. I want to go back and listen to the victim impact statements from the Gonzalez family. I did miss that in the hour that I had to step away, and that's something that I want to keep doing. Everybody's saying go back and watch Olivia. What I'm probably going to do is, once the court hearing posts, I will pull it and I will cut the Gonzalez family, because I felt that was the most impactful, and we'll get Steve up there, Olivia's up there, and you know, we'll get those posted up. So let's see. Emily says, Brian, if you have later today or this week, I'd love to hear you take on Kaylee's sister's speech. I've seen her name spelled differently. It's Olivia. Yeah, maybe I do a reaction video to it, because I did not get to see it, so I can do it in the raw. Maybe I'll come back tonight and record that and upload it tomorrow. I definitely want to pull the video and put the Gonzalez family impact statements up, because I felt that, you know, listen, we heard the most from them. It's kind of how we got our information through this case. They were the most outspoken. Not that I want to discount anything about the other families, but they chose to speak more than others for their own reasons. And I don't know, maybe that's something that I can do someday, is if they ever have any interest of ever doing another interview or speaking, you know, have them come on, and, you know, at least Steve come on. And I've tried before. I actually at one point was in touch with Christy at one point. We had corresponded back and forth, but then, you know, they had kind of got busy or went quiet, and I got kind of detoured into Karen's case. So maybe we circle back around at some point. Let's give them some peace and quiet to be with their family, and see how things go. But I want to thank everybody for coming and doing this last 4 hours with me through this sentence hearing today. Today is Wednesday. I'll be back on Sunday for the Sunday 617. And then Nan, Todd, and I have something very special planned for Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I have to get ready for our live show. If anybody doesn't know, I am doing the first ever live show in front of an audience on August 3rd. That's a Sunday from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. It will be live streamed, but I'm going to have a live audience. So live audience will be here in our mutual meeting room, and we're going to fit about 30 people in the audience. We're going to do a meet and greet, an hour meet and greet before one Mark Mazzamedia and myself take the stage and have a conversation on things that are happening here in Massachusetts. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about our experience through the Karen Reed case as well. So if you're lucky enough, to get one of these and be in the live audience, I'm excited to see all of you, and I will hopefully be doing another one of those soon in a bigger spot. So I'm trying to do that at least once a month and make that happen. So first ever here on the channel, LTL Media in front of a live crowd. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a lot of fun, and that'll be August 3rd. If you didn't get a ticket, you can watch it online, and that stream is going to start at 6 p.m. So we'll have a live audience. It's going to be awesome. So I'm going to conclude today. I see that the presser is going on. I can't stay. I have to go. So I just urge everybody, please go over and watch the presser. And I got to take off. I do have to go. I have some personal things I need to do. So, all right, I'm going to end. I appreciate everybody's time today for staying through this 4-hour stream, a very important stream today. And I'm going to get off air here, and I'll be back live on Sunday and Monday. And then I think after Monday's show, I'm going to take a week off because I still have to prepare for this. Well, take the rest of the week off to prepare for this live show and get all the logistics. Still, that I have a lot of logistics to do in that and get it ready. So everybody have a phenomenal day. I promise I'll go back and clip the Gonzalez family impact statements and get those up later on today. And maybe I come back tonight and do a recorded reaction to that. So we'll see. We'll see how things go. Okay. Yeah, it looks like Lauren Crime has it, the presser. I'm going to go. I appreciate everybody today. I'll talk to everybody soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.